Chapter 626. At this moment, several figures flew over from afar. Xiaohe, what's going on? Gu Yufei, the leader of the Gu family's younger generation, frowned and called out to Gu Xiaohe. This bastard took advantage of my Ping Yi, I must kill him. Gu Xiaohe didn't care about shyness and replied. One man and one beast continued to chase after Ling Xiao. Took advantage of your Ping Yi? Gu Yufei's face was instantly filled with black lines and his anger rose. Brother Gu, don't be so hasty. I think that Ling Xiao is a little arrogant, but he's not bad. Let's ask him about it first. A mature and charming woman beside Gu Yufei said faintly. Her beautiful eyes were focused on Ling Xiao's movements. At this moment, a young man wearing a strange Taoist robe beside the woman said, That's right. A person who dares to cause trouble in the medicine sect and has the Feng family as his backing, his background can't be too weak. You can't be thinking of letting him join us, right? Gu Yufei didn't think that they would help Ling Xiao out of the kindness of their hearts. He felt that they were definitely trying to use Ling Xiao. Brother Gu, you're wrong. Just now, we couldn't even decide who to send to scout the path. Now that there's a better choice, why should we give it up? The charming woman said with a charming smile. No one would have thought that such a flirtatious woman would have such a ruthless heart. That's right, I think that Miss Bu has a good idea. Another man in a Taoist robe agreed. Gu Yufei frowned and hesitated for a moment before saying, All right, I'll listen to you this time. He then turned to Gu Xiaohe, who was still chasing after Ling Xiao, and shouted, Little sister, come back here. Gu Xiaohe was furious, but she didn't go against her brother's words. She angrily put away the golden Jiao dragon and flew back to Gu Yufei's side. Big brother, you must kill that brat. Gu Xiaohe gritted her teeth. When she thought of the embarrassing scene just now, her face turned red again. And don't worry. I won't let that brat have an easy time. Gu Yufei nodded lightly. Following that, Gu Yufei and the others called back the people fighting with Wen Huang and Bai Mensheng. Ling Xiao also ordered Wen Huang and Bai Mensheng to stop attacking. However, the few of them looked extremely battered and exhausted. The people from the major forces had all suffered varying degrees of injuries. That high-level Earth Sovereign was even more seriously injured. The hideous wound on his chest was very frightening. On the other side, Wen Huang, Bai Mensheng and the Aurora Eagle were in an even more miserable state. The two humans and one beast were covered in blood, and it was a frightening sight. Their auras had already dropped by half, and if it wasn't for Ling Xiao's will telling them to kill each other, they would have already fallen. Ling Xiao looked at the two of them and shook his head. Looks like it's over. How boring. Although Wen Huang and Bai Mensheng were about to die, Ling Xiao still didn't kill them. After all, he had always felt that he was a kind person. If they were to die, they would be killed by others or by themselves. He wouldn't kill his own people. At this time, Gu Yufei, Gu Xiaohe, and a man and a woman flew towards Ling Xiao. Gu Xiaohe's beautiful eyes glared at Ling Xiao as if she couldn't wait to eat Ling Xiao alive. Ling Xiao pretended not to see Gu Xiaohe's murderous eyes. His gaze landed on another beauty that wasn't inferior to Gu Xiaohe. His gaze swept across the charming beauty's body without any hesitation. He exclaimed in his heart, This girl's figure isn't any worse than that girl from the Feng family. She's really interesting. Women, no matter who they were, would always prefer beautiful women. Ling Xiao was no exception. However, he loved mature and charming women the most. The woman in front of him was obviously the type that Ling Xiao liked. However, he was a lot more restrained now. There were many women around him, so he couldn't casually provoke them. Of course, if the beauty insisted on sticking to him, he wouldn't mind. The people in front of Ling Xiao didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so daring in his lust. Of course, to stare at a beautiful woman like this without letting go, if it was any other time, they would have killed him with a single slap. Whether it was her appearance or figure, the woman was comparable to Feng Yaxin from the Feng family. Her temperament wasn't inferior to Feng Yaxin either. However, there was one thing that Feng Yaxin couldn't compare to. Her peach blossom eyes were filled with spring and apricot. They looked extremely alluring. This kind of coquettish gaze was something that Ling Xiao had only seen from Yu Yanlai, who used to be in the same sect. This woman was the daughter of the Bu family, Bu Qing. She had the strength of an earth emperor. Other than Gu Yufei, the feminine man in the Taoist robe was a peak earth emperor from the ghost sect. He was known as the Ghost Child. The three of them were the leaders of their respective forces. Their temperament wasn't something that ordinary people could compare to. Bu Qing didn't care about Ling Zhao's gaze at all. Instead, she smiled and said, "Young Master Ling, I really didn't expect to meet you here. But why did you make little sister Gu angry?" Bu Qing's words were very interesting. She didn't mention the fight just now. Instead, she asked Ling Xiao as if she was talking about family matters. "It's just a misunderstanding. I wonder if Ling Xiao has the honor of knowing this beautiful sister's name?" Ling Xiao said in a polite and gentlemanly manner. "Bastard, who said it's a misunderstanding?" Gu Xiaohe was furious. She felt that Ling Xiao was really a pervert. How dare he take advantage of her? Now, he was looking at Bu Qing in such a presumptuous manner. She wanted to get rid of Ling Xiao as soon as possible to vent her anger. Bu Qing's beautiful eyes flickered. She smiled and said, "I'm Bu Qing. You can call me Bu Qing or Qing Qing." Ling Xiao shamelessly smiled and said, "Qing Qing. Not bad. It's a nice name. Then I'll call you that from now on." He thought to himself, so she's from the Bu clan. Gu Yufei and the Ghost Child's expressions turned cold. They felt that Ling Xiao was too arrogant. He actually called the name of the girl they liked so intimately. Bu Qing smiled sweetly and said, "Young Master Ling, are you interested in the ancient peak in front?" Ling Xiao rubbed his hands and said, "Of course I'm interested. But I heard that you've sealed it off? I wonder if there's such a thing?" "Hee, of course it's sealed off for others. But it's not a problem for young Master Ling. We don't dare to be careless with someone who dares to challenge the medicine gate." Bu Qing was good with words. She praised Ling Xiao to the heavens. Ling Xiao felt very comfortable. He smiled modestly and said, "Qing Qing is really good at praising me. I, Ling Xiao, am not worthy of such praise." The others looked at Ling Xiao, but they didn't see any "not worthy" expression on his face. Instead, he had a smug smile on his face. Bu Qing suddenly changed the topic. She pointed at the peak in front of them and said, "I wonder if young Master Ling is interested in searching for the sovereign pellets with us. I'm sure you can sense the powerful soul power undulations over there. There are many sovereign pellets over there." Ling Xiao was stunned. He couldn't understand what this woman was thinking. However, Ling Xiao was a fearless person. He wouldn't miss out on this opportunity. He nodded and said, "Since Qing Qing thinks so highly of me, I'm naturally interested." "But..." Bu Qing looked at Ling Xiao's hesitant face and asked, "But what?" "But how are we going to split the sovereign pellets?" Ling Xiao asked. "You don't have to worry about that. We'll rely on our own abilities. Whoever gets the most will get it." Bu Qing replied, "Qing Qing, I trust you. I just don't know if these two brothers and the rest of our brothers and sisters are willing to do this." Ling Xiao flattered Bu Qing. "You don't have to worry. They won't have any objections." Bu Qing replied. Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment. "All right, if that's the case, I'll go with you." At this time, Bu Qing revealed a satisfied smile, but under this smile, there was a hidden scheme. Ling Xiao followed Bu Qing and the others to the foot of the mountain. There were already dozens of people waiting there. When they saw Ling Xiao, all of them revealed unfriendly expressions. At this time, two young men in luxurious clothes and a woman who was as beautiful as Gu Xiaohe and Bu Qing walked over. "Why is there an outsider here?" Gu Qingfeng of the Gu family asked Bu Qing and the others coldly. The holy son and holy daughter of the Yin-Yang god cult also looked at Bu Qing, Gu Yufei, and the Japanese, hoping that they could give them a reasonable explanation. Therefore, Bu Qing briefly explained the situation to them. At the same time, she told the three of them that she was just using Ling Xiao. However, Gu Qingfeng obviously did not want Ling Xiao to interfere. Although it would be less dangerous to have a scout, he had a feeling that Ling Xiao would become an uneasy factor in their relationship. The five forces restrained each other and balanced each other. There would not be any trouble, but if there was an unknown expert, it would be troublesome if he joined one of the forces. Therefore, Gu Qingfeng firmly refused to allow Ling Xiao to go with them. Bu Qing, I think we should forget about it. It's enough for us to split this place. He should go back to where he came from. Gu Qingfeng said coldly. He looked at Ling Xiao with a threatening expression. Bu Qing did not know why Gu Qingfeng was against it, but she secretly gave him a look. At the same time, she advised, Brother Gu, with Brother Ling's relationship with the Feng clan and his courage to challenge the Medicine Gate, I think he is qualified to go with us. Brother Gu and Brother Gui have agreed to this. I think the Holy Son and Holy Daughter won't mind, right? I think we should listen to Brother Gu. After all, he is only one person. It is not appropriate for him to go with us. The Holy Son of the Yin-Yang God cult suddenly said. However, he chose to support Gu Qingfeng's opinion. For a moment, Bu Qing did not know what to say. After all, she knew that the Gu clan and the Yin-Yang God cult had a good relationship. Once they joined forces, her voice would be much weaker. Hee, Qing, don't be embarrassed. Since they don't want me to go with you, I will go alone. Ling Xiao smiled and strode towards the mountain peak. How dare you not put me, Gu Qingfeng, in your eyes? Gu Qingfeng shouted. A strong killing intent flashed in his eyes. A powerful energy blasted towards Ling Xiao's back. Chapter 627. As an outstanding disciple of the Gu clan, Gu Qingfeng had participated in the last imperial ranking tournament with his brothers and sisters. At that time, he had just stepped into the high-level earthly sovereign realm, but he had become one of the top 100 combat emperors in that tournament. Now that 10 years had passed, he hadn't suddenly broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. He had only reached the peak of the earthly sovereign realm. It wasn't that he, Tenbin, was incapable, but he wanted to make a comeback this time and become one of the top 10 imperial killing emperors. He wanted to win an honorary title for the Gu clan. After all, no one from the Gu clan was among the top 10 imperial killing emperors in the last tournament. The cave abode in front of him was a place that he, the Gu clan, the Bu clan, the Ghost sect, and the Yin-Yang sect had discovered in the last tournament. It gave people a palpitating feeling, and there seemed to be terrifying soul power fluctuations hidden in it. Generally, there would be a lot of emperor pills in such a powerful place. Therefore, the various forces had agreed to enter together to search for emperor pills. In the last tournament, many people from the various forces had entered this cave abode, but none of them had appeared in the end. They were sure that there must be great danger inside, and great opportunities accompanied such great danger. Although they wouldn't encounter any top-grade spiritual flowers or herbs in this vast and boundless space, there were more resources here than in the outside world. Those who had died here were all almighty figures of the four majestic empires, and they all had extraordinary means. Although they had all fallen in this ancient battlefield, who could be sure that they hadn't left behind any inheritance or peerless treasures? It should be known that in the past, there had been some extremely lucky earthly sovereigns who had obtained an inheritance left behind by an emperor-level powerhouse, or obtained an ancient sacred artifact that had been lost a long time ago. These things had already been confirmed, so many earthly sovereigns knew that this place was full of danger, but they still went to these dangerous places like moths to a flame. In addition to fighting for a ranking in the imperial ranking tournament, their other goal was to obtain this peerless opportunity and embark on a glorious path of martial arts. As for Gu Qingfeng and the others, they were fully prepared this time. They would definitely find a way to take everything out of the cave mansion. The Gu clan was on friendly terms with the Yin-Yang sect, while the Gu clan was on good terms with the Bu clan. The Ghost Dark sect remained neutral. None of the 5 clans wanted to be the first pathfinder. The reason why Bu Qing asked Ling Xiao to join them was that she wanted Ling Xiao to be the pathfinder. However, she didn't expect that Gu Qingfeng would object at this time. Ling Xiao was also out of her expectations. He didn't even care about the Gu clan's face and directly walked towards the mountain peak. Gu Qingfeng was furious and immediately attacked Ling Xiao. A powerful green sword blade stabbed towards Ling Xiao's back. This attack was fast and swift. It was much more powerful than an attack from a peak earthly sovereign. Gu Qingfeng wanted to finish off Ling Xiao with a single move. Moreover, Gu Qingfeng's move was considered a sneak attack. It was already too late for most people to defend themselves. No matter how strong Ling Xiao's defense was, he would still be injured. Gu Xiaohe shouted in his heart, "Kill this damned pervert." With Ling Xiao's agility and reflexes, it wasn't a problem for him to dodge Gu Qingfeng's attack. However, he still walked forward as if he didn't care about Gu Qingfeng's sneak attack at all. Boom! Gu Qingfeng looked at Ling Xiao, who was hit by his powerful attack, and smiled disdainfully. "I thought you had some skills. I didn't expect you to be so weak. Gu Qing, you don't seem to have a good eye." However, as soon as he finished speaking, an even more disdainful voice sounded. "This kind of attack isn't even worthy of making this young master feel itchy. These days, the weaker the person, the more arrogant they are. You should really learn from a strong man like this young master. It's better to always keep a low profile." Everyone stared dumbfounded at the gradually fading figure in the distance. Bu Qing came back to her senses and smiled. "Hee hee, young Master Ling is indeed interesting. The more I look, the more I like him." After saying that, she swayed her hips and led the Bu clan's people to follow the slender figure. At this time, Gu Yufei and Gu Xiaohe also led the Gu clan's people to follow. The ghost sect's devil child did not fall behind. "Brother Gu, let's go in as well. Since that brat wants to show off, let's give him a chance. I'm afraid that he won't even have a corpse left." The saint of the Yin-Yang sect's face flashed with a smile that was like a spring breeze. He seemed to be very amiable, but who knew that an unknown killing intent flashed in his eyes? Gu Qingfeng clenched his fists and looked at Ling Xiao's back with an ashen expression. The thick killing intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. "Brat, if I let you walk out of the abyss of war alive, I'll write my name backwards." Gu Qingfeng made a decision in his heart. He was one of the top 100 combat emperors in the previous abyss of war, an old man who had successfully left the abyss of war. Moreover, he was a descendant of the Gu clan. Now that he was being looked down upon by a mid-stage Earth Emperor, it was really hard for him to swallow this anger. However, he still knew how to look at the big picture. Now that he had a conflict with Ling Xiao, he was afraid that it would be disadvantageous for them to enter the cave, so he endured it. If Ling Xiao died inside, then so be it. If he didn't die, then he, Gu Qingfeng, was not someone to be trifled with. Walking on the bare mountain peak, Ling Xiao did not look like he was facing a great enemy. Instead, he looked as if he was sightseeing a beautiful scenery. Behind him, there were two inseparable figures following closely like bodyguards. On this mountain peak, Ling Xiao did not see a single resentful spirit, but the more it was like this, the more he felt that there was a great mystery in this mountain peak. Among the young leaders of the 5 major forces behind Ling Xiao, none of them were moving alone with their family members. They were actually following not far behind Ling Xiao, as if they were following Ling Xiao's lead. If other Earth Emperors were to see this scene, their jaws would probably drop to the ground in shock. One had to know that every descendant of the 18 major forces had their eyes on the top of their heads. How could they be willing to follow behind a mid-stage Earth Emperor? Although Ling Xiao did not see their faces, he could imagine the excitement on their faces. None of them were willing to be the vanguard. They all hoped that Ling Xiao could rush into the cave on the mountainside as soon as possible. However, Ling Xiao was walking at a snail's pace, which made them extremely angry. "Brat, are you going in or not?" Gu Qingfeng could not help but shout. When had he ever suffered this kind of humiliation? He was actually following behind a nobody and eating the dust. The expressions of the saint's son, saintess, Gu Yufei, Gu Xiaohe, and the devil child from the Yin-Yang religion turned cold as well. Only Bu Qing still maintained her charming demeanor, as if she was not the slightest bit displeased. After hearing Gu Qingfeng's shout, Ling Xiao simply sat down on the ground as if he was lazy. He ignored Gu Qingfeng and sighed softly, "It's really tiring to climb this mountain. Let's sit down and rest." Ling Xiao's sudden words almost caused the people behind him to fall to the ground. What the hell is he talking about? It's extremely easy for a dignified Earth Emperor rank expert to destroy a mountain, yet he dares to say such words? He's obviously just pretending to be cute. Bu Qing, Gu Xiaohe, and the saintess of the Yin-Yang religion could not help but burst into laughter. Bu Qing looked at Ling Xiao with an indescribable expression, and Gu Xiaohe's expression changed slightly as well. They all thought to themselves, this guy actually has a humorous side. Gu Qingfeng's expression was extremely ugly. If I don't kill you today, I won't be surnamed Gu anymore. After saying that, a green high-grade longsword appeared in his hand, and he was about to attack Ling Xiao. However, before he could make his move, a gust of wind blew towards him. Everyone felt their vision blur, and the next moment, they found that Ling Xiao was already beside Gu Qingfeng. Not only that, but Gu Qingfeng's neck was already tightly gripped by Ling Xiao, causing his face to turn red. The other 9 people from the Gu family were immediately enraged. What are you doing? Let Brother Qingfeng go, or you'll be in big trouble. How dare you offend our Gu family kid? Let Brother Qingfeng go if you know what's good for you. Let him go, or you won't be able to leave this place. Looking at the members of the Gu family who were about to eat him alive, Ling Xiao changed his original lazy look, and a domineering aura exuded from him. Let me tell you, if you dare to scold me again, I'll make sure that every member of the Gu family dies here. After saying that, his body glowed with a dazzling 5-colored light, and a terrifying aura forced the people around him to take a step back unconsciously. Most of the people present were high-level earthly emperors, and only a few were mid-level earthly emperors. They could all feel the strong pressure from Ling Xiao, and even the aura of a low-level heavenly venerable couldn't make them lose their composure like this. Gu Qingfeng, whose neck was being gripped by Ling Xiao, was even more shocked. Sensing the 5-colored divine light around Ling Xiao, it wasn't difficult for him to guess that Ling Xiao was someone who cultivated multiple attributes at the same time. No wonder his combat power was so terrifying. Brother Ling, for the sake of the Gu family and our Yin-Yang sect, let's forget about this matter. Brother Gu didn't mean to offend you. The saint of the Yin-Yang sect stood up and said indifferently. At this time, Bu Qing also spoke up. That's right, young Master Ling, we can be considered allies for the time being. It's not good for anyone to make such a big fuss, not to mention that there are still Emperor pills waiting for us to find here. If other forces find out about this place, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to get more benefits. Ling Xiao had no intention of killing Gu Qingfeng, so he immediately tossed him aside. Don't think that I, Ling Xiao, am easy to bully just because I'm a little weak. I'm not even afraid of the medicine sect, let alone your Gu family. Ling Xiao glared at Gu Qingfeng and warned. Alright, Gu family, listen up. Everyone attack together and kill this arrogant little bastard. I want him to live a life worse than death. Gu Qingfeng shouted in shame and indignation. This time, he had lost all his face, and he could no longer suppress the surging killing intent in his heart. Just as the battle between the Gu family and Ling Xiao was about to start, a strange scene occurred in the cave on the mountainside. Chapter 628. A mountain peak that had its peak flattened. From afar, the dazzling array of scars was a shocking sight. It looked like an old man that had 1 foot in the grave and could collapse at any time. There was a black cave entrance halfway up the mountain peak. The cave entrance was emitting a corrosive and cold aura. Before this, there had been no movement in the cave. At this moment, a strange phenomenon occurred. The cave entrance was like a heaven-devouring beast. A terrifying suction force was released. All the resentful spirits within a radius of 10,000 miles rushed towards the mountain peak at the same time. These resentful spirits that had not dissipated for 10,000 years actually had a look of terror on their faces. It was as if they had met their nemesis. They struggled desperately to escape, but it was a pity that they found it was useless. This scene happened just as the Gu clan was about to make a move on Ling Xiao. Today, I will show the Gu clan what it means to be a frog in a well. I, a mid-stage Earth sovereign, am not a weakling that you can pinch as you please. Ling Xiao no longer cared about anything else and shouted at the Gu clan. In this chaos abyss of war, even if he killed everyone in the Gu clan, no one would dare to say anything. Even if he went outside, it would not be easy for the Gu clan to hunt him down. With his strength, even if he could not defeat them, he could still escape. Moreover, he had 3 super bodyguards by his side. If they really angered him, he could directly go and destroy the Gu clan. That would be the end of it. Ling Xiao had an extraordinarily handsome appearance. When he was not serious, he exuded an evil aura that was fatal to women. However, when he was serious, he was like a god of war, which made people worship him even more. No matter what kind of woman he was, they would have the urge to fall in love with him. His body was covered in a layer of 5-colored dragon-scale armor. He looked so majestic. With the ice and fire sword in his hand, his murderous intent spread out. His disdainful eyes were filled with a wild and domineering aura. Bu Qing, Gu Xiaohe, and the saintess of the Yin-Yang God sect were all infatuated with him. They discovered that Ling Xiao was filled with the supreme might of an emperor. They could not help but feel like submitting to him. The others, on the other hand, felt a sense of submission and fear towards Ling Xiao. Their auras could not help but weaken. The Gu clan was stunned. No one dared to step forward to challenge him. Their arrogance seemed to have shrunk by more than half. Gu Qingfeng was worthy of being the leader of the Gu clan. He quickly recovered from his momentary daze and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Attack together!" Just as the Gu clan was about to attack Ling Xiao, Gu Yufei of the Gu clan exclaimed, "Look! What that is!" At Gu Yufei's exclamation, everyone couldn't help but look in the direction he was looking. The countless vengeful spirits were like swallows returning to their nest as they flew towards their mountain peak. It was a black mass of resentful souls. They could not even count how many there were. Moreover, every single one of them had already condensed successfully. Their strength was comparable to a heavenly venerable. Even an emperor stage cultivator would go weak at the sight of such a terrifying swarm of resentful souls, let alone Earth's sovereign stage cultivators like them. So many resentful souls. This is too scary. Don't tell me they're coming for us. Quick, run or it'll be too late. Can we still run? Look, resentful souls are flying towards us from all directions. Is this a nest of resentful souls? Are we really going to die here? I'm not willing to die like this. The expressions of the disciples of the 5 forces changed at the same time, and all of them revealed expressions of extreme shock. No matter how strong they were, facing these inhumane and incomparably powerful resentful souls, there were times when they were afraid. Don't worry. Look, they're being sucked in by the hole. Bu Qing was indeed a heroine. She was bold and meticulous enough to discover the crux of the matter. Gu Zi nodded his head heavily and said, "That's right. Those resentful souls seem to be very afraid. They were sucked in by the hole. Everyone, calm down and quickly hide your auras." The people from the Gu clan could no longer care about fighting with Ling Xiao. All of them hid their auras, afraid that they would be sucked in by the hole. The people from the 5 forces silently watched as the resentful souls were swallowed into the hole one by one. Their faces turned incomparably pale. Even the domineering Ling Xiao couldn't help but retract his aura and stare at the hole with a serious expression. He thought to himself, what a powerful soul force fluctuation. This is definitely a remnant soul above the emperor stage. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to have such power. Any remnant soul that could reach the emperor stage was definitely a terrifying supreme expert when they were alive. Their strength when they were alive was definitely 10 or even 100 times more terrifying than their current state of soul force. Previously, Ling Xiao had encountered the remnant soul of a quasi-emperor, so their strength when they were alive was definitely not at the quasi-emperor level. At the very least, they had to be at the emperor stage to be able to condense such a high-level remnant soul. And the remnant soul that had reached the emperor stage in this cave abode was probably at least a peak emperor stage or even a saint stage super expert when they were alive. The entrance of the cave emitted a formless pressure and a sinister aura, making it hard for people to breathe. It was as if there were demons from the 9 hells in the cave abode, causing people to feel cold and fearful. The hole absorbed the vengeful souls for an entire 2 hours before stopping. A small portion of the vengeful souls that hadn't been absorbed started to fly away like frightened birds, not paying any attention to the dozens of people between the mountain peaks. When everything calmed down, everyone sat on the ground as if they had lost their strength. Their foreheads were already covered in sweat. Only the leaders of the 5 great powers and Ling Xiao were still standing without losing their composure. Should we still go in? Bu Qing asked with a bitter smile. The others had complicated expressions on their faces. They knew that there would definitely be great danger here, but they didn't expect it to be so terrifying. It actually absorbed so many high-level vengeful souls and produced such a terrifying pressure that really made them feel like they were going to collapse. Although they knew that great danger would be accompanied by great opportunities, such opportunities weren't open to everyone. Only those who had the fighting spirit and conviction to fight to the death would have a chance. Otherwise, no one could easily obtain such opportunities. Ling Xiao seemed as if he didn't hear Bu Qing's words. He actually ignored everyone and started to walk towards the entrance of the cave alone. The leaders of the 5 great powers couldn't help but look at this bold figure with admiration. Gu Qingfeng came here for the cave abode, so he naturally had no reason to retreat at this time. All of you stay. I'm going up. If I don't come out in half a month, all of you can leave first. Gu Qingfeng spoke as if he was facing death with equanimity. Then, without turning back, he followed her. The others looked at each other, then Gu Yufei also made up his mind and said, "Little sister, you guys stay. I want to see what's inside." Just as Gu Yufei was about to leave, Gu Xiaohe pulled him back and said, "Brother, I want to go with you." "No, there's great danger inside. I can't let you take the risk," Gu Yufei said with a firm attitude. "Brother, if I don't go in, you will be in even more danger. With me around, nothing will happen to us," Gu Xiaohe replied firmly. Gu Yufei hesitated for a moment as if he thought of something. In the end, he nodded his head and said, "All right, but you must listen to me when we're inside. You can't act recklessly." Gu Xiaohe nodded and then followed Gu Qingfeng. The others of the Gu clan stayed behind. Bu Qing also hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she brought out her heroism and followed the others. Unexpectedly, there were also 2 peak earthly emperor realm experts from the Bu clan who followed her. The others stayed behind. The ghost child of the ghost sect actually chose to withdraw from this competition. He simply led his people away from the mountain and went to look for another sovereign pill. The ghost child sneered in his heart, "They're all courting death. It seems that there are a few less powerful opponents in the top 10. The saint and saintess of the Yin-Yang sect looked at each other. In the end, they didn't leave like the ghost child did. The 2 of them also followed the ghost child into the cave while the others stayed behind. The cave was halfway up the mountain. The entrance of the cave wasn't particularly big and could only accommodate 2 or 3 people at the same time. There were some piles of rocks in front of the entrance. It seemed that they were used to cover the entrance of the cave but were later removed by someone. As soon as they arrived at the entrance of the cave, a gust of terrifying cold wind blew out, making people feel extremely cold. The entrance of the cave was like a bottomless black hole. One couldn't see its depth at a glance. It was pitch black and looked extremely gloomy. Ling Xiao stopped at the entrance of the cave and the others followed suit. He closed his eyes and scanned the cave with his spiritual force like a tidal wave. His spiritual force continued to extend downwards, hoping to find something. "This cave is so deep." Ling Xiao couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Just as his spiritual force was about to reach the bottom of the cave, a terrifying rebounding force slammed against Ling Xiao's spiritual force. Poof! The rebounding force was extremely terrifying. Before Ling Xiao could cut off the connection with his spiritual force, he was immediately hit by the rebounding force. He felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness and spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body instantly withered and he swallowed it. His face was incomparably pale. The people behind him couldn't help but take a few steps back at the same time. They thought that the cave was doing something strange and devouring again. When everyone saw that Ling Xiao had swallowed golden blood, they couldn't help but feel strange. On the other hand, Gu Yufei and Gu Xiaohe revealed an imperceptible look of surprise. The way they looked at Ling Xiao was slightly different. "Young Master Ling, what's going on?" Bu Qing couldn't help but ask. Ling Xiao lightly shook his aching head and said, "There should be a remnant soul at or above the Emperor stage down there. It could also be a living creature. Think carefully about whether you want to go in or not. I'm going to rest for a while." After saying that, Ling Xiao quickly sat down to repair the damage to his sea of consciousness. Fortunately, his sea of consciousness was hundreds of times stronger than others. Otherwise, just the rebounding force from that attack would have been enough to kill him. Playing tricks. So what if it's a remnant soul at the Emperor stage? Gu Qingfeng ignored Ling Xiao's words. His body was surrounded by the light of his attribute and he plunged into the cave. The holy son and holy daughter of the Yin-Yang sect seemed to be afraid that Gu Qingfeng would get to the things inside first, so they followed without hesitation. Chapter 629. After Gu Qingfeng entered, the rest of the group's expressions darkened. Although they were not as perceptive as Ling Xiao, they had already sensed the terror of this place. However, since they had already come this far, there was no way they could back down now. The saint and the saintess looked at each other and immediately disappeared into the cave. Bu Qing glanced at Gu Yufei and Gu Xiaohe, who did not move, and asked, "Brother Gu, Sister Gu, are you going in?" Gu Yufei glanced at Ling Xiao and said, "We'll wait for Brother Ling before we go in." Beside him, Gu Xiaohe also nodded lightly. Bu Qing did not know what Gu Yufei and Gu Xiaohe were planning. She looked at the meditating Ling Xiao and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Then let's wait for young Master Ling." Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness was injured, and this kind of injury was much more difficult to heal compared to physical injuries. Moreover, this injury was much more serious than before. Although the spirit-controlling art had the healing ability, it was not something that could be healed in a short time. It only took Ling Xiao a quarter of an hour to stabilize his injuries before he stood up. Ling Xiao looked at Bu Qing, Gu Yufei, and Gu Xiaohe, who had not entered the cave yet, and said, "I advise you to leave. This place is not something you can handle." Although he knew that Bu Qing had accepted him because she wanted to make use of him, he could not help but advise them because of his love for beauty. "Then, are you going or not?" Gu Xiaohe, who had been silent all this while, suddenly asked. Ling Xiao glanced at Gu Xiaohe and shook his head. "Although this place is dangerous, it is not enough for me, Ling Xiao, to retreat." After saying that, he began to walk towards the cave entrance. Gu Xiaohe's beautiful eyes flashed with admiration and she said, "Since you are not afraid, of course we are not. I'll go with you." After saying that, she immediately followed Ling Xiao. Bu Qing looked at Gu Xiaohe in confusion. She could not understand why she, who was filled with murderous intent towards Ling Xiao just a moment ago, suddenly became so kind. Could it be that this girl has taken a fancy to Ling Xiao? Bu Qing guessed in her mind. Before she could figure it out, Gu Yufei also walked in. Bu Qing didn't think too much about it. She waved to the two Gu family members behind her and followed them in. The interior of the cave was filled with a gloomy and damp air, and the smell of corrosion was especially strong. It was pitch black, making it difficult for people to see further, and they couldn't even see the road in front of them. Ling Xiao had green pupils, so the darkness here was not an obstacle for him and his constitution. The others took out their spirit tools one after another, illuminating their surroundings. There was nothing special about the surrounding rock walls. There wasn't even a single lizard crawling on them. There wasn't even a single weed. It was all smooth and protruding. However, a gust of cold wind would occasionally blow out from the cave, and the sound of it would make one's hair stand on end. Gu Xiaohe was standing closer to Ling Xiao. Half of her curvaceous body was leaning against Ling Xiao's other side. Her body was trembling slightly, and it was obvious that she was not as calm as she appeared. Ling Xiao smelled the faint scent of a woman, and his tense mind relaxed a lot. Ah! Suddenly, Gu Xiangxiao let out a scream and hugged Ling Xiao's arm. "Little sister, what's wrong?" Gu Yufei immediately came forward and asked anxiously. Ling Xiao also looked at Gu Xiaohe with a puzzled expression. Bu Qing and the two people behind her also became nervous. There's something under my feet." Gu Xiaohe looked like she was about to cry. She didn't have the majestic expression she had when she was chasing after Ling Xiao. Now, she was completely like a frightened little girl, and people couldn't help but feel pity for her. Everyone looked at Gu Xiaohe's feet, and to their surprise, they saw an exquisite bony palm above her feet. The bony palm seemed to have stretched out from the ground. Half of it was above Gu Xiaohe's feet, and the other half was underground, so they couldn't see it clearly. Don't worry, it's just a bony palm. Ling Xiao looked at Gu Xiaohe's frightened expression, and he couldn't help but pat her shoulder a few times to comfort her. Gu Yufei also said, yes, people have come here before, so it's not surprising to see bones. Little sister, if you're afraid, it's not too late to leave now. I'm not afraid, I'm just nervous, Gu Xiaohe shook her head and said. As she said that, she couldn't help but grab Ling Xiao's sleeve tightly, as if Ling Xiao could bring her a sense of security. Only Bu Qing, who was an observant woman, noticed this detail. The cave was indeed very deep, and it seemed to extend downwards without an end in sight. After walking for half an hour, they still hadn't reached the end. Along the way, they came across many skeletons. From their clothes, it wasn't difficult to tell that they were the earthly sovereign who had died here in the past. The deeper they went, the stronger the chilly wind became. Moreover, the aura of hostility and oppression gradually became more unbearable. The few of them exerted their full strength and carefully went deeper into the cave. After walking for a while, they finally saw Gu Qingfeng and the holy son and holy daughter of the Yin-Yang god religion. The place they were in had become spacious, as if it was the hall of a cave abode. It was not a problem for it to accommodate dozens of people. Colorful beads were placed around the cave abode, illuminating the inside of the cave abode. Gu Qingfeng and the other two didn't seem surprised when they saw Ling Xiao and the others coming in. Is this the bottom of the cave? Ling Xiao frowned slightly and murmured. He looked around and found that there were dozens of skeletons and some scattered spiritual weapons. They must have been left behind when they died. Apart from these, there seemed to be nothing special. However, on the other side of the cave, there were 3 huge entrances, which seemed to lead to deeper areas. Gu Qingfeng and the holy son and holy daughter of the Yin-Yang god religion stayed here, probably because they couldn't decide which passage to take. When Ling Xiao and the others stepped into the center of the cave, the entrance behind them suddenly flashed with a light curtain, sealing the entrance. Everyone was instantly shocked. The road behind is blocked? Bu Qing cried out in alarm. Let's see if we can destroy it. Gu Yufei frowned, then walked back with dragon-like tiger steps. Then, he roared and a golden fist instantly surged out of his arm. The golden fist hit the light curtain, causing a rumbling sound. After the punch, the light curtain still didn't have the slightest damage. Gu Yufei was unwilling to give up. A high-rank spiritual spear appeared in his hand, and he stabbed the light curtain with all his strength again. This time, Gu Yufei hit the light curtain, but was rebounded by the powerful energy. He spat out a mouthful of blood. There was even a faint golden color in the blood. What a powerful restriction, I can't break it. Gu Yufei wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth and said faintly. Everyone's expression changed, and they revealed expressions of panic. Since there is no way out, we can only move forward. Ling Xiao said faintly. There were 3 paths now, but everyone didn't know which one to choose. When Ling Xiao arrived in front of the 3 paths, he closed his eyes and hesitated for a moment. Then he walked into the leftmost cave. However, at this time, a hoarse voice sounded, "How dare you disturb this king's eternal sleep? You all deserve to die." As soon as the voice fell, the light inside the cave flashed, and the scene inside the cave instantly changed. Everyone seemed to have arrived in a world of blood sea. Blood people and corpses emerged from the sea of blood. This world was very similar to the blood demon world of the cruel leopard, but the scale of this world seemed to be bigger and more terrifying than the cruel leopard's blood demon world. These blood people and corpses carried a strong hostility and rushed towards them. Although everyone was afraid, they felt that the scene in front of them should be an illusion. Don't panic, this should be an illusion. As long as we can guard our minds, we will be fine in a while. Gu Qingfeng shouted at the saint and saintess of the Yin-Yang god sect. He immediately closed his eyes and focused his mind. The others also closed their eyes and focused their minds, waiting for the illusion to be broken. However, these blood people and corpses seemed to be real. They kept grabbing and biting at their bodies, as if they wanted to eat all of them alive. Although everyone knew that this was an illusion, they could still feel the pain of being bitten and the disgusting scene. This made them extremely unbearable. However, they were all outstanding talents of the 18 major forces. Finally, when they could not bear it anymore, their aura suddenly rose, and they shook off the blood people and corpses. A bottle of medicine appeared in their hands, and they immediately applied it to their eyes. This was an illusion-dispelling potion, which could let people see through all illusions. As expected, after applying the illusion-dispelling potion, the blood demon world immediately disappeared in front of them. Everyone weakly sat on the ground, their expressions incomparably pale. Only Ling Xiao did not collapse. His eyes flashed with green light as he stared at the largest hole on the left. He seemed to see what was in the hole, and his expression became extremely nervous. Do you think you will be fine after breaking the illusion? You are too naive. The hoarse voice sounded again. Then, the cave began to shake, as if something was about to come out from the passage in the middle. Everyone immediately jumped up from the ground as if they were facing a great enemy, and stared at the hole nervously. A huge skeleton ran out from the hole in the middle. It was a skeleton in the shape of a dragon. It was about 10 meters long, and it almost occupied the entire cave. On top of the skeleton's head, there was a beast core that was the size of 2 heads. The skeleton and the beast core looked very strange. No one expected this skeleton to be able to run freely like a living thing. The dragon's head opened and closed a few times, making a few sounds of bones and teeth striking each other. Then, it fiercely charged at them. There was not much space to move around in the hole, and the dragon skeleton only needed to move its body to force everyone to dodge. What can a mere dead thing do to me? Gu Qingfeng raised the long sword in his hand and slashed at one side of the skeleton. Clang! The long sword collided with the skeleton, and a metallic sound was heard. Chapter 630. The weapon in Gu Mingfeng's hand was a low-tier 7th-tier spirit weapon, so one could imagine how sturdy it was. However, his full-powered strike was unable to damage the skeletal dragon's skeleton at all. Gu Mingfeng could not help but feel shocked as he quickly retreated. However, the skeletal dragon's tail was already sweeping towards him at an incredible speed. In this narrow space, Gu Mingfeng did not have any extra space to dodge. However, he wouldn't be defeated just like that. A cyan shield appeared in his hand. Smash! The tail smashed against the shield, and Gu Mingfeng was sent crashing into the rock wall by the terrifying force. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The others did not stay idle either. They all unleashed their strongest attacks at the skeletal dragon. As the space was not big, the emperors did not blindly use large-scale elemental attacks. Most of them used the might of their spirit weapons to fight the skeletal dragon, hoping to destroy it as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the skeletal dragon's skeleton had already exceeded their expectations. It was invulnerable to weapons and was difficult to damage. Although this skeletal dragon did not have the terrifying attack power it had when it was alive, every bone in its body seemed to be an offensive weapon. Whether it bit, rammed, or swept. In this narrow space, all of them could cause great harm to the crowd. At this moment, a bony claw slapped towards Gu Xiaohe's face, who could not dodge in time. If Gu Xiaohe was really hit, even if she did not die, her face would be disfigured. On the other side, Gu Yufei was enraged and shouted, "Little sister, dodge." He raised his spear to save her, but he could not catch up to her in terms of speed. Gu Xiaohe was so scared that her face turned pale. She knew that she could not dodge anymore, so she could only close her eyes and wait for death to come. However, at this moment, a figure dashed out like the wind and saved Gu Xiaohe before the bony claw landed on her face. Stop attacking its skeleton, attack the beast core in its head with all your might. As long as the beast core is broken, it will collapse on its own. Ling Xiao shouted loudly as he carried Gu Xiaohe in one arm. The others suddenly came to a realization. The beast core should be the energy supporting the bone dragon's attack. As long as it was destroyed, the bone dragon would definitely be destroyed as well. With Ling Xiao's rich battle experience, he was able to see through the crux of the matter with a single glance. As for the rest of them, they were all outstanding youths of major powers. Although their battle prowess wasn't weak, In terms of experience, none of them could compare to Ling Xiao. The few of them couldn't care less. They immediately gathered their powerful elemental attacks and blasted it towards the flickering beast core on the skeletal dragon's head. Boom, boom, boom. Although their attacks were very powerful, the energy contained in the beast core seemed to be very powerful as well. They were unable to destroy it for a while, but they greatly weakened the bone dragon's attack power. However, while the bone dragon was fighting back, one of the Bu family's earthly sovereigns had his arm scratched off by the bone claw, and the others had more or less suffered internal injuries. The situation was not optimistic. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, was watching the battle intently with Gu Xiaohe in his arms. Little did he know that his arm was wrapped around Gu Xiaohe's ample bosom. Gu Xiaohe's face was so red that it looked like it was about to bleed. If it was any other time, she would have killed this lecher who had taken advantage of her with a single palm. But now, she couldn't summon the slightest bit of killing intent. Instead, her heart was beating wildly, causing her heart to be in chaos. Previously, Ling Xiao had kissed her butt, which made her think that Ling Xiao was an extremely daring pervert. She really wanted to stab him to death. However, when Ling Xiao released his terrifying aura to suppress Ling Xiao, she felt that Ling Xiao was very domineering. When she looked at Ling Xiao's handsome face again, she was slightly intoxicated. Then, when she saw Ling Xiao spit out the golden blood, she realized that she might have some kind of relationship with Ling Xiao. Therefore, she weakened her killing intent toward Ling Xiao. Now that she was rescued by Ling Xiao, her heart was filled with reluctance. "Stand behind me first. I will destroy this bone dragon." A solemn look flashed across Ling Xiao's face. He pulled Gu Xiaohe behind him and the ice and fire sword appeared in his hand. "Go!" Ling Xiao saw the opportunity and shouted. He threw the ice and fire sword out. The ice and fire sword pierced the huge beast core of the bone dragon like a rainbow. Since they had attracted the bone dragon's attack, the ice and fire sword accurately pierced the beast core. However, the ice and fire sword could not destroy it with one strike. However, Ling Xiao did not just attack it with one strike. He used his mind to control the ice and fire sword and slashed at the beast core. If one strike could not destroy it, he would use 2 strikes. If 2 strikes could not destroy it, he would use 4 strikes. He was determined to destroy the beast core. The few people here all saw that strange sword continuously slashing at the beast core, and their expressions all became astonished. Unity of man and weapon. Gu Xiaohe, who was behind Ling Xiao, could not help but exclaim with her mouth covered. The others looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated gaze. Gu Qingfeng gritted his teeth and exclaimed in his heart, "This guy must not be allowed to live." Under the continuous attacks of the ice and fire sword, the beast core was finally destroyed. However, the explosion caused by the forceful destruction of the beast core was quite terrifying. Everyone in the cave was affected. Boom. Everyone already knew this would happen, so they had already raised their defense to the highest level. When everything dissipated, most of the people had slammed into the surrounding rock walls in a sorry state. Their complexions were incomparably pale, and the corners of their mouths were stained with blood. Their clothes were damaged to varying degrees, and they looked indescribably sorry. In order to protect Gu Xiaohe, who was behind him, Ling Xiao had also suffered a heavy blow on his back. Fortunately, only his clothes were torn, and he did not suffer any serious injuries. It was not that Ling Xiao had any designs on Gu Xiaohe, but he had the same thought as Gu Xiaohe. There must be some kind of relationship between them. At the same time, he had always thought of himself as a man who cherished flowers. Of course, he did not want to see Gu Xiaohe get hurt. Gu Xiaohe could feel Ling Xiao's safe and steady body protecting her. A feeling that she had never felt before spread throughout her body. Her heart was beating wildly. Are you all right?" Gu Xiaohe looked up at the handsome man in front of her and asked with concern. Ling Xiao shook his head and let go of Gu Xiaohe. He turned around with a doubtful expression. Gu Yufei quickly rushed to Gu Xiaohe's side. "Little sister, are you all right?" At this moment, everyone in the cave started to gather around Ling Xiao. Among them, Ling Xiao was the only one who had not suffered any injuries. Seeing how calm he was, they could only place their hopes on him. I don't believe that a mere remnant soul like you can take my life. Gu Qingfeng revealed a crazed expression as a large, jade-green hammer appeared in his hand. This big hammer had a strong elemental fluctuation, and a human figure slowly appeared on top of the big hammer. Bu Qing looked at the hammer and could not help but exclaim, I didn't expect Brother Gu to take out his family's half-step sacred weapon. No wonder he was willing to barge in here. Gu Qingfeng glanced at Bu Qing and the others and said, You guys don't need to hide anymore. If we can't kill this powerful remnant soul, we will all die here. We should work together to kill it first. Bu Qing nodded, looked at the others, and took out a semicircular treasure. The treasure was only the size of a palm, but the energy it emitted was extraordinary. Waves of blue light flickered, illuminating the cave in a blue hue. So it's the sacred sky light shield. Great. With it, we can definitely break through this damned place. Gu Qingfeng looked at the item in Bu Qing's hand and said happily. The others also revealed a happy expression. Clearly, they recognized the treasure in Bu Qing's hand. I'll defend against your attacks. Bu Qing casually tossed the sacred heaven light barrier in her hand, and blue light was emitted once again, enveloping everyone. Shockingly, it was a defensive half-step holy artifact, and it could resist attacks of any element at or below the emperor rank. Of course, Bu Qing's strength was not enough to last too long. After all, she was only an earth sovereign. If it weren't for the fact that her life was in danger, she would never have taken out the sacred sky light shield. At this time, the Yin-Yang religion's Holy Sun and Holy Maiden also signaled to each other and each took out a peak 7th Order Sword Spirit artifact from their space rings. Although they were not as dazzling as the two half-step sacred weapons, their offensive power was definitely top-notch. The swords in their hands were one of water and one of fire, yin and yang in harmony, allowing them to display their greatest power. Since ancient times, the Yin-Yang religion's Holy Sun and Holy Maiden had cultivated the Yin-Yang sacred scripture, so it was not difficult for them to kill enemies above their realm. Therefore, the others did not look down on them. After all, not every great force was willing to let their juniors squander their half-step sacred weapons. On the Gu family's side, Gu Yufei did not take any action, instead looking at his little sister and saying, Xiaohe, take it out, or we'll all die. Gu Xiaohe nodded, her space ring flashed, and a simple and unadorned golden spear appeared in front of everyone. This golden spear seemed to have been around for many years, and it looked rather old. There was no fluctuation of spiritual qi at all, as if it was just an ordinary spear. But then, Gu Xiaohe made a shocking move. Her aura surged, and a mouthful of blood essence sprayed from her little mouth. The blood essence landed on the spear. Swoosh! A golden light immediately bloomed. This golden light instantly overshadowed the light of the other weapons, making them look much dimmer. At the same time, a strong sense of oppression assaulted everyone's hearts. The shadow of a golden dragon suddenly appeared, and a dragon's roar shook the cave. This was a golden dragon with 8 claws, and its aura was many times stronger than the bone dragon just now. The Gu family's golden dragon spear. Except for Ling Xiao, the others recognized the origin of this spear, and they all exclaimed in unison. Looking at their expressions, it was not difficult to guess that the grade of this golden dragon spear had exceeded the scope of the weapons in their hands. This was a true sacred weapon, and the half-step sacred weapons in Gu Qingfeng and Bu Qing's hands could not be compared to it. Chapter 631. The Golden Dragon Spear was the Gu clan's most famous sacred artifact, and it was widely known in the central region. 5,000 years ago, its appearance shocked everyone in the central region. At that time, a hidden aristocratic family clashed with the Gu clan, and the hidden aristocratic family's strength was rather powerful. They actually had a saint-level patriarch. This patriarch thought that he was more powerful than others, and actually led his men to attack the Gu clan to demand justice. However, this patriarch was indeed arrogant when he arrived at the Gu clan. Unfortunately, he was killed by a high-level ancestor-level mystic emperor from the Gu clan. A mystic emperor killing a saint-level expert sounded unbelievable, but it had actually happened before. The Gu clan's emperor-level expert had used the Golden Dragon Spear to kill the saint-level expert with a single move. No one could tell what rank the Saint Golden Dragon Spear was, but no one would treat it as an ordinary low-rank Saint artifact. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to break through a Saint artifact's defense. The Golden Dragon Spear became famous in the central region after that battle, and it also raised the Gu clan's ranking slightly. However, the Gu clan's patriarch who used the Golden Dragon Spear did not break through to the Saint level, and after his death, no one else obtained the Golden Dragon Spear's recognition, and the Golden Dragon Spear went silent like an ordinary weapon. Of course, not many people knew the inside story. Moreover, a sacred artifact of this grade was the clan's treasure, and they would not use it unless they were in danger. They would not let a junior use it. Now that Gu Xiaohe was able to take out the Golden Dragon Spear, everyone was shocked. Just as Gu Xiaohe took out the Golden Dragon Spear, the hoarse voice sounded again, "What a familiar aura! It's the aura of the Dragon Spear. Good. I never thought that after thousands of years, someone would actually return my Dragon Spear." 4 great adamantine warriors snatched the Dragon Spear back for this king. Since when did the royal family's possession belong to a lowly commoner? What does he mean by that? Gu Xiaohe gripped the Golden Dragon Spear tightly in his hand as he struggled to speak. Gu Yufei faintly sensed something and frowned. He immediately shouted, "Everyone, don't waste time. Little sister, quickly break the restrictions here and get out, or else we'll all die here." "Gu Yufei, what are you afraid of? Since we have the Golden Dragon Spear, it's best to destroy this remnant soul. There must be a lot of monarch pills and treasures inside," Gu Qingfeng said with a frenzied expression. It seemed that he was determined to plunder everything inside before he was willing to give up. At this time, a muffled commotion came from the hole in the middle. Needless to say, something terrible was about to come out. "Little sister, hurry up and break the restriction here," Gu Yufei called out to Gu Xiaohe again. Gu Xiaohe did not dare to hesitate. She used all her strength to lift the Golden Dragon Spear. It was as if the Golden Dragon Spear weighed millions of kilograms. She seemed to be struggling to lift it. Then she stabbed at the light barrier behind her. Rumble! A solid 8-clawed golden dragon rushed out of the Golden Dragon Spear and slammed into the restriction at the exit. When this terrifying golden dragon appeared, it was as if they had seen a real dragon appear in the world, making them feel extremely insignificant. That power made them feel that if they were to be touched by even a little bit of it, not even their dregs would be left. The cave abode shook violently. Sure enough, the restrictive spell had been destroyed. However, everyone was shaken by the aura and could not rush out of the cave immediately. Gu Xiaohe was severely injured and the Golden Dragon Spear had fallen from his hand, returning to its normal state. Gu Xiaohe was severely injured and the Golden Dragon Spear had fallen to the side, returning to its normal state. At this time, the things in the middle cave finally appeared in front of everyone. They were 4 tall corpses. Their bodies were still there, but their skin and flesh were shriveled. They looked extremely hideous and frightening. These 4 corpses were all wearing heavy armor and holding ancient spears in their hands. The armor and spears were shining with powerful spiritual energy. They did not lose their luster because of the erosion of time. The moment everyone saw the battle armor and long spear, they knew that they were not ordinary items. At the very least, they were top-notch spirit weapons. Guard the exit and do not let them leave. The dragon spear must not fall into the hands of these lowly commoners. The hoarse voice sounded again. As soon as the voice faded away, Gu Yufei grabbed Gu Xiaohe and cried out in alarm, "Little sister, run. Big brother, the Golden Dragon Spear is still there." Gu Xiaohe cried out. She wanted to grab the Golden Dragon Spear, but Gu Yufei had already pulled her out of the cave. Bu Qing also exclaimed, "Let's go out too." She knew that it was impossible. The danger here was beyond her imagination. If they did not escape now, only death would await them. Bu Qing pushed the sacred light barrier and rushed out of the cave. The 2 people behind her did not dare to hesitate and immediately followed her. The holy son and holy daughter of the yin-yang god cult did not dare to stay any longer. They ran madly toward the cave. The cave that could only accommodate 2 people suddenly became very crowded. However, before they could reach the entrance of the cave, The two dried corpses were faster than all of them. They sealed the entrance of the cave before they could reach it. Get out of my way. Gu Yufei stabbed his spear at one of the corpses. Rumble. The sharp and powerful golden light fiercely bombarded the dried corpse. This was a full-force attack from a peak Earth Emperor. Even a half-step exalted level expert would not dare to let it hit him. However, this corpse did not dodge and took the attack head-on. When the golden light dissipated, the corpse was completely unscathed. Moreover, its shriveled hand had grabbed the spear. The corpse roared and exerted force to pull Gu Yufei's spear over. Gu Yufei's body leaned forward uncontrollably, and the corpse's other hand reached out. Bang! The corpse's palm struck Gu Yufei's body and produced a muffled groan. Gu Yufei spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying back. Gu Xiaohe, who was grabbing onto him, quickly pulled him back. Unfortunately, the corpse's palm was extremely terrifying. Even Gu Xiaohe could not hold Gu Yufei's body. The two of them were smashed into the stone wall at the same time. On the other side, Bu Qing and her earthly sovereign were protected by the sacred light barrier. However, the strength of the corpse was far too terrifying. Bu Qing's complexion grew paler and paler as her fists slammed into the heavenly barrier of holy light. It was clear that she wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. The two earthly sovereigns of her clan attacked the corpse at the same time, but they weren't able to do much damage to it. This was because the defensive capabilities of the corpse's full set of battle armor were far too abnormal. Even if they attacked with high-grade spiritual weapons, they still weren't able to destroy the corpse. Behind them, Gu Qingfeng was barely able to deal with one of the corpses with his half-grade sacred tool. The saint and saintess of the Yin-Yang cult used the sacred Yin-Yang technique to fight against one of the corpses. However, they seemed to be having a hard time. It was likely that they would not be able to resist the corpse that was not afraid of death. In addition to the astonishing defense of the corpses, their combat strength was also much stronger than all the earthly sovereigns. Even heavenly venerables were stronger. Almost everyone was caught in a great crisis. At this time, Ling Xiao was about to step forward to help the Gu siblings. However, he found that their combat strength had increased at the same time. It really is the ancient emperor's divine art. Ling Xiao couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the two golden Jiao dragons emerging from Gu Yufei and Gu Xiaohe's bodies. He finally knew why the Gu siblings gave him a familiar feeling. It turned out that they had cultivated the ancient emperor's divine art like him. However, their cultivation realm did not seem to be high. They should have only reached the third transformation, the viscera refinement realm. The increase in their combat strength was only 1 or 2 times higher than before. Little sister, I'll keep it busy. You take the opportunity to escape. Gu Yufei was heavily injured by the mummy's attack. Fortunately, he was wearing a spiritual armor and had the help of the ancient emperor's divine art, so he did not die immediately. He was worried about his little sister's life. He immediately shouted and charged at the mummy again. I don't need it. If we want to leave, we'll leave together. Gu Xiaohe was also a stubborn person. She ignored her brother's words and made a sound of acknowledgement. Then, she dashed towards the golden dragon spear not far away, planning to use it to destroy the mummy. On Bu Qing's side, her heavenly light barrier's defense was getting weaker and weaker. She would not have enough energy to maintain it if she took another 2 hits. Little sister Qing, you guys leave. I'll stay here to stop it. The earthly sovereign with a broken arm shouted at Bu Qing. Then, he threw himself at the dried corpse and hugged it tightly. From the looks of it, he was willing to sacrifice his life in exchange for the lives of the other 2 members of the Bu family. The mummy fiercely slapped the earthly sovereign of the Bu clan who was hugging it. The palm directly penetrated the earthly sovereign's body. Blood kept flowing out, but the earthly sovereign of the Bu clan still hugged the mummy tightly. His body began to swell. It seemed that he wanted to destroy the mummy even if he had to self-destruct. Bu Qing's throat seemed to be blocked by something. Seeing her family members sacrificing themselves for her, she felt extremely sad. Little sister Qing, let's go. We can't let Bu Fan's sacrifice be in vain. The other earthly sovereign of the Bu clan grabbed Bu Qing's hand and flew out. At this moment, the earthly sovereign of the Bu clan exclaimed, "Let's go to hell together." Rumble. The explosion of the peak earthly sovereign caused the cave mansion to shake slightly. Everything inside the cave mansion disappeared. The few people who were fighting were also sent flying by the shockwave. However, the mummy was not destroyed. Only one of its arms was blown off, but it could still continue to fight. Gu Xiaohe was also unable to retrieve the golden dragon spear due to the self-destruction of the earthly sovereign of the Bu clan. She was hit by the shockwave and fell to the side. However, she couldn't care less. Just as she was about to pick up the golden dragon spear again, someone was faster than her and snatched the golden dragon spear. Ha! The golden dragon spear of the Gu clan. Now let me see how powerful it is. The person who picked up the golden dragon spear was none other than Gu Qingfeng of the Gu clan. He did not intend to return the golden dragon spear to Gu Xiaohe. Instead, he held it and stabbed it towards a mummy. Chapter 632. Unfortunately, when the golden dragon spear stabbed the mummy, it didn't release any attack energy. It didn't cause any damage to the mummy at all. This time, Gu Qingfeng was dumbfounded. He had poured all his energy into the spear just now. Even if the golden dragon spear didn't display the power of a sacred tool, it should have at least displayed his strength. However, his strength was like mud entering the sea. It didn't have any effect at all. The mummy grabbed the golden dragon spear with one hand and thrust the spear at Gu Qingfeng with the other. Gu Qingfeng decisively abandoned the golden dragon spear and hurriedly swung the big hammer in his other hand to meet the attack. On the other side, the Yin-Yang sect's holy son and saintess fought against the mummy while retreating toward the cave entrance. However, the mummy that had blocked the Bu family's path earlier attacked them. Previously, they had been able to resist it when it was 2 against 1. However, now that it was 2 against 2, they quickly showed signs of defeat. The saintess' shoulder was injured by one of the mummies, and her combat strength dropped rapidly. The holy son cursed inwardly, "Oh no, this mummy is too strong." Then he took out a heavenly lightning seed from his spatial ring. The heavenly lightning seed's power was too terrifying. If he used it here, they would be killed by the power of the heavenly lightning seed before the mummy was destroyed. "Holy son, what are you doing?" The saintess exclaimed when she saw the heavenly lightning seed that the holy son had taken out while dodging the mummy's attack. The holy son replied in shock, "I'm going to destroy this place. Only then will we have a chance to escape." As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the heavenly lightning seed in his hand toward the cave entrance on the left. "Explode, you damned bastard," the holy son shouted ferociously. He felt that as long as he could destroy or injure the remnant souls inside, these mummies would naturally collapse on their own. However, before the heavenly lightning seed that he threw out could land on the cave entrance, it seemed to be affected by something and automatically bounced back toward the holy son. The holy son's eyes widened when he saw the heavenly lightning seed that suddenly flew back. He was horrified. No! He wanted to dodge it, but the heavenly lightning seed's rebound speed was too fast. It landed right in front of him and exploded. Strip them all. Ling Xiao had been keeping an eye on all the movements. He immediately caught sight of Tian Lazy flying back and cried out in surprise. At the same time, he flew over to Gu Xiaohe and hugged her, pressing her under his body. Rumble. The earth-shattering explosion sound was particularly terrifying in the narrow cave abode. The sound reverberated endlessly in the tens of meters wide space, making people feel particularly ear-piercing and uncomfortable. When everything disappeared, there were only 4 people left out of the original 6. The 4 of them were Ling Xiao, Gu Xiaohe, Gu Yufei, and Gu Qingfeng. The holy son and holy daughter of the Yin-Yang god cult had been blown to smithereens in the explosion just now, and the corpse closest to them had lost a head as well. It had finally lost its support and collapsed. In order to protect Gu Xiaohe, Ling Zhao's back was blasted into a bloody mess. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. Gu Yufei and Gu Qingfeng were similarly heavily injured and would probably not have the strength to fight anymore. Under Ling Zhao's protection, Gu Xiaohe's injuries were the lightest. his battle strength was still preserved. The other 3 corpses were still completely unscathed and continued to chase after them. At this moment, Ling Xiao could no longer conceal his aura and hide in a corner. He pulled Gu Xiaohe behind him and said, "Stay here." Then he ignored the injuries on his back and unleashed all his battle strength. Cultivating all 5 elements at the same time could increase his combat power by 5 times, and the advanced Ancient Emperor Divine Art could increase his combat power by 8 times. In total, he had 13 times his combat power. A golden dragon shadow roared out, and a golden dragon fist punched towards the head of the mummy. This time, Ling Xiao chose to engage in close combat with the corpse. Of course, the corpse would not sit still and let Ling Xiao hit it. It stabbed its spear at Ling Xiao emotionlessly. Ling Xiao dodged it skillfully. The spear tip brushed past his clothes while his golden dragon fist punched the face of the corpse. Bang! The mummy's head was smashed by Ling Xiao's fist. Ling Xiao did not plan to let it go just like that. He was afraid that this damned thing still had the ability to fight. He punched the corpse repeatedly and finally kicked it away. Ling Xiao dashed towards Gu Yufei, who was about to be stabbed by the corpse, and kicked it away. Then he pulled Gu Yufei back to Gu Xiaohe's side. At this moment, the corpse that Ling Xiao had punched let out a series of muffled sounds and exploded. Finally, it collapsed weakly. On the other side, Gu Qingfeng was seriously injured. However, he put his life on the line and smashed the head of the corpse with his sledgehammer. He finally managed to kill one of the corpses with great difficulty. He collapsed to the side and swallowed a pill to recover from his injuries. Now, there was only one corpse left. It charged towards Ling Xiao and the others. Ling Xiao fought the corpse and shouted at the same time, "I'll keep it busy. All of you leave immediately." Ling Xiao's words were naturally directed at the Gu siblings. Then what are you going to do? Gu Xiaohe did not know why Ling Xiao was helping her, but she did not have the luxury of time to think about it. Her big brother was seriously injured, and there was an emperor-rank soul fragment here. Once that soul fragment appeared, they would not be able to escape even if they wanted to. However, she was worried about Ling Xiao's safety. "Don't worry about me. I have my own plans. Leave now if you don't want to die." Ling Xiao used his advantage in speed to repeatedly dodge the corpse's attacks. He looked for an opportunity to destroy the corpse's head at any moment. Gu Xiaohe looked at her big brother, then at Ling Xiao. In the end, she gritted her teeth and carried her big brother on her back. Then, she prepared to put the golden dragon spear away with her. Unexpectedly, a powerful suction force came from the abode on the left, and the golden dragon spear was sucked into the abode. "How can a lowly commoner like you use the royal family's sacred treasure?" The hoarse voice resounded, and a ray of golden light instantly shot out from within the abode. Gu Xiaohe was shocked. She carried Gu Yufei on her back and swiftly flashed towards the entrance of the abode. Unfortunately, the ray of light was like a maggot, and it chased after them. Ling Xiao didn't even think about it. He kicked the dried corpse he was fighting, using it as a shield to block the finger light. Boom! The terrifying ray of light directly penetrated the corpse and caused it to explode. The Gu siblings also escaped from the abode. Only Ling Xiao and Gu Qingfeng were left in the abode. However, Gu Qingfeng had already decided to retreat at this moment. The other party had only sent shrimp soldiers and crab generals, and they had already been forced into such a state. If he continued to fight, it would only prove that he was tired of living. Gu Qingfeng dragged his injured body and dashed towards the entrance of the abode. He was afraid that he would die here if he was even a second late. "You destroyed my 4 great Vajra protectors. All of you can stay here." The cold voice resounded, and 2 rays of light shot out from the abode. Gu Qingfeng was already heavily injured, but his will to live was very strong. He turned around and smashed the ray of light with his hammer. The web between Gu Qingfeng's thumb and forefinger split open, and the hammer flew out of his hand. His entire body slumped against the wall. Ling Xiao did not have Gu Qingfeng's half-step sage weapon to block the attack, but that did not mean that he would just sit and wait for death. A hairy chasing arrow crossbow appeared in his hand, and he shot an arrow at the ray of light. Rumble! With the arrow puppet blocking the ray of light for him, Ling Xiao was able to escape death. However, he wholeheartedly wanted to seize this abode. So, he locked onto the remnant soul's aura inside the abode and shot the second arrow. A lowly commoner of Star Do dares to disrespect this king. The cold voice resounded. The hairy chasing arrow crossbow had just reached the entrance of the abode when it was immediately shattered by a powerful aura. At this time, Gu Qingfeng wanted to take the opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, the remnant soul inside seemed to be really angry, and another ray of light shot towards him. This time, Gu Qingfeng did not have the help of a half-step sage weapon. He was unable to resist at all. His chest was directly pierced, and his body exploded. Among the group of people that came in, only Ling Xiao was still standing there. A lowly commoner like you actually didn't escape. You're really brave. The remnant soul said with a bit of disdain, and the ray of light shot out again. Ling Xiao would not foolishly stand there and wait for death. He increased his speed to the extreme, picked up the big hammer that Gu Qingfeng had just thrown, and turned around to disperse the ray of light. Feeling the powerful spiritual power that the big hammer emitted, Ling Xiao couldn't help but sigh. This half-step sage weapon was much more powerful than a spirit weapon. With the big hammer in hand, Ling Xiao blocked several rays of light and did not suffer any injuries. He saw that the remnant soul did not seem to intend to rush out of the cave. Moreover, it repeatedly shot out the ray of light without any other powerful attacks. Ling Xiao guessed that it must have been restrained or restricted by something. Damn lowly commoner, don't think that you can stop this king from killing you just because you have a weapon. The remnant soul seemed to be very angry that it could not kill Ling Xiao. Immediately afterward, a whooshing sound came from the cave entrance, and a terrible power of resentful souls drilled out of the cave entrance, turned into a ghost, and drilled into Ling Xiao's knowledge sea, as if it wanted to forcibly swallow Ling Xiao's knowledge sea. If it was someone else, it would be difficult for them to sense the existence of the resentful souls, and they would unknowingly fall into the trap. But Ling Xiao was an expert who specialized in spiritual power, and no one could be more sensitive to the soul than him. Facing the power of the resentful souls, Ling Xiao suddenly thought of a way to deal with it. He pointed his finger, and the blue flame met the resentful soul's power. The resentful soul's power instantly withered, and the blue flame took the opportunity to burn the cave entrance. Heavenly fire! A lowly commoner like you actually has heavenly fire! The remnant soul screamed with a bit of fear. However, the blue flame still could not pass through the cave entrance, and there seemed to be a powerful restriction there that isolated the heavenly fire. The remnant soul seemed to know that it would not be easy to kill Ling Xiao, and perhaps because of the heavenly fire, it did not make the slightest sound. However, Ling Xiao did not intend to just leave like this, and a bronze drum appeared in his hand. This simple and unadorned bronze drum was the mysterious weapon that he had obtained from Wen Huang. I don't believe that you can withstand my attack, Ling Xiao murmured, and all the spiritual power in his body concentrated in his hand and hit the bronze drum. Dong dong. Chapter 633. Although Ling Xiao didn't know what grade of weapon the bronze drum was, he was certain that it was at least a half-step holy artifact in its current state. Otherwise, how could it have an artifact spirit? Ling Xiao had studied the bronze drum for a while. In the end, he discovered that the bronze drum only needed to be infused with spiritual energy to unleash its power. There didn't seem to be any special requirements. However, the bronze drum required an enormous amount of spiritual energy. Ling Xiao had tried it a few times, but with his current spiritual energy, he could only unleash 3 attacks from the bronze drum at most before he couldn't unleash its power any further. It was clear that the bronze drum's consumption was quite shocking. Dong dong. The sound was like the sound of war from ancient times. It was very shocking to hear. Sky suppression drum. It's the sound of the sky suppression drum. The remnant soul in the cave shrieked, as if it was very familiar with the sound of the drum. Is the sky suppression drum referring to this broken drum? Ling Xiao asked in his heart as he beat the drum. Ling Xiao didn't have much time to think. A few more rays of light shot out from the cave. This time, the power was much more terrifying than before. It was likely that even a heavenly venerable would have a hard time withstanding it. Fortunately, Ling Xiao was fast enough. As he dodged the attacks with the bronze drum in his arms, he gathered all his strength in his palms and struck again. As the sound of the drum fell, a giant with eyes as large as a bell appeared in the cave. It was holding a giant drum in its hands, as if it would only be satisfied if the cave was broken. "Bastard, I'm going to cripple you, you lowly commoner." The voice was incomparably furious. It roared, and the shadow of a golden dragon roared out from the cave. An 8-clawed golden dragon charged out with unparalleled might. This golden dragon was many times more powerful than the one Gu Xiaohe had unleashed. It was like a real dragon had appeared in the world, and the cave was about to be broken. It was also at this moment that the giant's eyes widened. Its thick arms raised the drumstick and smashed it against the giant drum. The sound was like the roar of an ancient ferocious beast, and it was also like the beating of war drums in an ancient battlefield. The sound was deafening, and it shook the heavens and the earth, causing people to feel as if they had returned to the hot-blooded era of the ancient battlefield. Ling Xiao's strength was much greater than Wen Huang's, so his attacks were naturally much more powerful. As the sound of the copper rang out, Ling Xiao's ears, which had long been shut off, began to buzz incessantly. The 8-clawed golden dragon that was about to reach him was pulverized by the sound of the copper. The golden dragon's spear naturally fell to the ground. Not only that, but the cave also began to explode. Rumble. The powerful sound waves were greatly amplified within the cave, and the surrounding restrictions were finally unable to withstand the endless reverberations of the sound waves and began to collapse. Ling Xiao was already dizzy from the shock of the bronze sound. Normally, such a situation would not occur even when he was practicing the sound of the copper drum in the open space. Now that the cave was too narrow, the sound of the copper drum had nowhere to vent, so it naturally reverberated incessantly in this place. The rock walls in the surroundings began to collapse, and Ling Xiao, who was completely defenseless, was smashed into unconsciousness by the falling boulders. Before he collapsed, he could still hear the hoarse voice cursing in exasperation, "You little bastard, you're so ruthless. I'll definitely make you die a horrible death." Outside the mountain, Gu Xiaohe, Gu Yufei, Bu Qing, and the others who were lucky enough to escape were already thousands of meters away from the mountain. They looked at the mountain that had suddenly exploded, and their expressions became incomparably horrified. This mountain had not been destroyed even through the chaotic times of war, but now it began to collapse with a thunderous sound of the drum. A series of rumbling sounds rang out incessantly, as if the sky was about to collapse. When the sound disappeared, the mountain seemed to have vanished into thin air. Not even a single piece of stone was left on the ground, and there was only a vast expanse of flat land, as if the mountain had never been there in the first place. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape, and their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. He disappeared. Impossible. Gu Xiaohe's heart felt as if it had been stabbed by a knife, and she murmured in discomfort. Bu Qing thought that he was referring to it, and she immediately nodded and replied, "Yes, this remnant soul is too powerful. I don't know what method it used to move this mountain away." Gu Xiaohe did not reply to Bu Qing, and she only sat on the ground in a daze. Tears welled up in her beautiful eyes as she murmured, "He did it to save me, it's all to save me, that's why he died." Sob sob. Gu Xiaohe suddenly burst into tears, and Bu Qing was extremely puzzled. After all, only the two of them had entered the cave, and now that they had both come out alive, why were they crying so sadly? A figure suddenly appeared in Bu Qing's mind. Could it be him? Gu Yufei recovered a little, and he comforted Gu Xiaohe, "Little sister, don't blame yourself. I think Brother Ling is a good man, and he will be fine." But Gu Xiaohe wanted to say something, but her throat seemed to be blocked by something. The explosion just now was simply earth-shattering, and even a heavenly venerable would not be able to withstand it. Could he really still be alive? After an unknown period of time, Ling Xiao slowly regained consciousness. Hiss! Ling Xiao's body had just moved a little, and he could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Only now did he realize that he had been crushed by a huge rock, and a few of his ribs were probably broken. Fortunately, his condition was not too bad. Ling Xiao circulated the ancient emperor's divine art to repair his damaged organs, and balls of golden light flickered incessantly. Gentle spiritual energy flowed out of his five-colored dantian, and it continuously soothed his meridians and nourished his organs, activating the regeneration effect. After Ling Xiao's injuries had recovered a little, he let out a loud shout, and the aura around his body shook, shattering the huge rock into pieces. Ling Xiao crawled up and immediately swallowed a few pills. Then, he quickly circulated the ancient emperor's divine art to speed up his recovery. At the same time, he kept the bronze drum that had landed beside him. Did that guy disappear? Ling Xiao realized that he could no longer sense the fluctuations of the remnant soul's power, but he still felt a little uneasy. Just as Ling Xiao was about to walk towards the big cave, he saw the golden dragon spear that had fallen to the side. With a grab of one hand, the golden dragon spear automatically fell into his hand. This is a sacred weapon. Could it be that only members of the Gu family can use it? Ling Xiao murmured as he looked at the ordinary-looking golden dragon spear. He had seen Gu Xiaohe and the remnant soul use this golden dragon spear before. Its power was really terrifying, but Gu Qingfeng couldn't use its full power, so he wondered if this golden dragon spear required some kind of secret technique to be used. Ling Xiao didn't have time to study it, so he could only put it away. Of course, Ling Xiao would not let go of Gu Qingfeng's half-step sacred weapon and space ring. In addition, the battle armor and golden spears of the 4 dried corpses were also collected by Ling Xiao one by one. After doing all this, Ling Xiao cautiously walked towards the 3 caves. However, Ling Xiao still didn't dare to walk towards the cave on the left. The danger index there was too high, so he had to be cautious. He chose the cave on the right. The bone dragon had escaped from this cave, so he didn't know what was inside. This cave was much more spacious than the cave mansion outside, but without the illumination of the pearls, it was extremely dark. Fortunately, Ling Xiao had his green eyes, so he could see everything in the darkness with just one glance. There weren't many things in this cave mansion. There were golden scales scattered on the ground, which seemed to be real dragon scales. In addition to these dragon scales, there was also a pair of golden horns and a bead. These things all exuded a faint golden light, and it seemed that they didn't have much energy left. Ling Xiao grabbed one of the scales and carefully examined it. He was immediately pleasantly surprised to find that it was indeed a real dragon scale. Dragon scales were top-grade divine materials for artifact refining. If they fell into the hands of a saint artifact master, it wouldn't be a problem for them to be refined into sacred-level defensive armors. Dragons were from the god race, so their dragon scales had the powerful defense of dragons. It wasn't something that ordinary profound artifacts or spirit artifacts could break. Although Ling Xiao wasn't an artifact refiner, he still had some common sense. It was just that he couldn't determine whether these dragon scales were the dragon scales of a flood dragon or real dragons. After all, there wasn't much difference between the two, and he had never seen a real divine dragon before. Without a second thought, he put away the huge pile of dragon scales. He didn't have any use for these dragon scales, but if he took them to the auction, there would definitely be many artifact refiners who would fight to the death to get them. After keeping the dragon scales, Ling Xiao picked up the pair of golden horns that were as tall as a human. This pair of golden horns was like a deer's antlers, with 2 forks. It didn't seem to be anything special, but the glistening golden light emitted a noble color. The warm color flowed into Ling Xiao's palm, making him feel like he couldn't bear to part with it. It's a pity that it's of the metal attribute. I don't know if it's useful to this little dragon. If it's useless, then I'll refine it into a top-grade pill. It should be of great help to my ancient emperor mystic art. Ling Xiao sighed lightly and put it away again. From some ancient books, Ling Xiao had read about some divine beasts, and among them, there was a saying that this dragon horn could be used to refine pills. It was said that after the pill was refined, it could strengthen the body and physique of a person. It was just that the alchemy manual didn't mention anything about this, so Ling Xiao didn't know whether this dragon horn could be used to refine pills or not. However, he cultivated the ancient emperor mystic art, so he believed that this golden horn would be of some use to him. Finally, Ling Xiao picked up a fist-sized bead. This bead didn't emit a golden light like the dragon scales and dragon horns. Instead, it gave off an incomparably clear and bright light. Although this light wasn't strong, it gave off an ancient aura. Within the bead, there seemed to be a sparkling little dragon swimming around. It looked nimble and agile, making people feel that it was quite magical. This shouldn't be a beast, Dan. Could it be? Could this be the legendary dragon pearl? Ling Xiao revealed an incomparably shocked expression as he looked at the bead and muttered. Chapter 634. According to legend, at the beginning of the ancient world, before humans were born, the 9 great beasts were born. These 9 great beasts could be said to be the ancestors of all spirit beasts. They were the creatures that existed at the beginning of time. They all had the ability to fly in the sky, burrow into the earth, and swallow the clouds and spit out the rain. These 9 great beasts were now known as the 9 great mythological beasts. These 9 great mythological beasts were True Dragon, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, White Tiger, Qilin, Golden Crow, Hundun, Kunping, and Tao. Each of the 9 great mythological beasts, Tenbin, had its own original power. Their original power had its own shape, and the power they represented was also different from the Tenbin energy. The original power of the dragons was the dragon pearl that they nurtured. They were the true essence of the divine dragon, and their beast Dan was only a small part of it. The Vermilion Bird clan used its crown feather as its original power, the Black Tortoise used its tortoise shell as its original power, the White Tiger used its tiger tooth as its original power, the Qilin used its Qilin horn as its original power. Ling Xiao excitedly held the warm pearl in his hand. He could confirm that this was a dragon pearl, and what he had just harvested was definitely the dragon scale and dragon horn of the dragons. Although the dragon pearl was not as rare and precious as the heavenly pearl, it was definitely not much worse than them. Although Ling Xiao did not know what benefits the dragon pearl had for humans, he knew that it was absolutely a great thing for the strange beasts that contained the bloodline of dragons. As long as they swallowed the dragon pearl, even if they could not really transform into a true dragon, they could still greatly improve their bloodline and advance into a sage-level high-level spirit beast. They could also obtain the Tenbin inheritance of the dragons. For the spirit beasts, there was no better gift than this. This time the little dragon is lucky. It seems that it will not be difficult for it to evolve into a true dragon. Ling Xiao murmured happily. Then he carefully put away the dragon pearl. If he was not in the cave, he really wanted to discuss it with the blue flood dragon first. Ling Xiao walked around the cave once more, and when he didn't find anything else, he went back to the cave in the middle. The cave was blocked by a few rocks. Ling Xiao had to move the rocks away before he could enter. Waves of corrosive air came out of the cave, and the stench caused Ling Xiao to hold back his sense of smell. Inside the pitch-black cave, under the scanning of Ling Xiao's green eyes, everything was clearly visible. So many emperor pills. Ling Xiao exclaimed with his mouth wide open. He couldn't help but rub his eyes when he saw the emperor pills on the ground. He couldn't believe that there were so many emperor pills here. On the ground of the cave, round emperor pills were scattered all over the ground, looking like worthless stones. Ling Xiao roughly estimated that there were at least 400 to 500 of them. Damn, how many emperors must have died to gather so many emperor pills? Ling Xiao couldn't help cursing. Every emperor pill represented the fall of a mystic emperor. If there were hundreds of emperor pills here, didn't that mean hundreds of mystic emperors had died? Ling Xiao couldn't help thinking about how many emperor stage masters had died in this ancient battlefield. The number was quite terrifying. What kind of existences are the 4 great imperial dynasties? Ling Xiao sighed heavily. He didn't remain idle either, sweeping his space ring and quickly collecting these emperor pills one by one. Apart from that, Ling Xiao also saw some weapons placed on the rock walls around them. There weren't many of them, only a dozen or so. There were sabers, swords, spears, hooks. They were all covered in a thick layer of dust. Yang Kai could only see their shapes, but he couldn't tell if they still contained any spiritual energy. Ling Xiao raised his hand, and a gust of wind blew over, blowing away the thick layer of dust. Xiu xiu. Suddenly, a dazzling light flickered, and the colorful brilliance illuminated the cave. It was as if one was in a dream. Good treasures! Ling Xiao licked his lips and exclaimed, his eyes shining brightly. Just by looking at this luster, Ling Xiao could conclude that these weapons were absolutely extraordinary. He took 2 steps forward and grabbed a tiger-shaped broadsword in his hand. Then, a wisp of spiritual energy gently poured into the broadsword. A tiger king instantly soared into the sky and let out a terrible roar. The cave mansion was shaken by this powerful energy, causing a lot of stone fragments to fall. This tiger king didn't dissipate, and it looked no different from a real tiger king. Its majestic appearance caused people to involuntarily feel afraid. A half-rank sacred artifact. Ling Zhao's mouth opened wide as he exclaimed again. From this tiger form that didn't dissipate, this was definitely a good item that had reached the level of a half-rank sacred artifact. Ling Xiao gently touched the hilt of the saber and looked at the several ancient characters engraved on the blade. He knew that this saber was called Tiger Crescent. Those dried corpses should have once been terrifying experts. Otherwise, how could they have collected so many treasures? Ling Xiao sighed. After Ling Xiao put away the Tiger Crescent, he picked up a fire-colored longsword. As he poured his spiritual energy into it, a firebird suddenly appeared. Its power was no less than that of the Tiger King. It was also a half-rank sacred artifact called Flying Fire. After Ling Xiao inspected the 12 weapons, he put them away with satisfaction. These 12 weapons were actually all half-step sacred artifacts. This was simply a huge harvest. It had to be known that none of the 18 great powers could take out so many half-rank sacred artifacts. As expected, one who survives death is bound to have good fortune. Ling Xiao laughed heartily. This trip had really been a fruitful one. However, not everyone had the ability to obtain such a fortuitous encounter. Ling Xiao carefully inspected the abode once more. After confirming that there was nothing else, he left. Ling Xiao walked to the cave entrance on the left and hesitated about whether to enter or not. It had to be known that the remnant soul of an emperor-rank sacred artifact was inside. If the remnant soul faked its death, then wouldn't he be like a sheep walking into a wolf's den? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. After struggling in his heart, Ling Xiao decided to go in and take a look. This cave was the main cave, and the truly good things should be inside. If he didn't go in, then he would probably regret it for the rest of his life. However, before going in, Ling Xiao still put on a set of armor. This armor was also a half-rank sacred artifact, and its defensive capabilities were quite powerful. Although Ling Xiao had a powerful physical body, he didn't dare to be careless when facing the remnant soul of an emperor-rank sacred artifact. Putting on this armor was just a double layer of insurance, just in case. Ling Xiao held a shield and a sword in his hands. His whole body was covered in blue flames as he carefully made his way into the cave. Previously, he had used the green pupils to get a general idea of the situation inside the abode. However, when he really entered the cave, he still felt extremely shocked. This place was completely different from the other 2 abodes and the hall outside. This cave dwelling was very spacious. It was about 10 meters wide on both sides, and more than 10 meters high from top to bottom. There were countless top-grade pearls in the surroundings, illuminating this place. There were layers of simple and unadorned golden light screens on the surrounding rock walls, illuminating this place like a royal palace. At the front of the abode stood a mighty man wearing a dragon-patterned golden robe. When Ling Xiao first saw this man, he felt as if he was still alive. He almost turned around and ran out. Fortunately, Yang Kai suppressed his fear and looked at the man again, only to find that he was no longer breathing. This man wore a golden crown on his head and had an extraordinary face. His golden eyes seemed to still be moving, and his gaze was like a king looking down on the world. It was incomparably majestic, giving people the urge to kneel and worship him. He covered the arrow that had pierced through his chest with one hand while his other hand was gripping something. It wasn't difficult to guess that he was originally holding the golden dragon spear. This corpse hasn't decayed, and it doesn't have a foul smell. It's amazing. Ling Xiao observed for a moment and found nothing unusual, so he couldn't help but exclaim. At this time, Ling Xiao looked around the cave and found that there were no treasures around, causing him to feel a little disappointed. However, he quickly fixed his gaze on the dead golden-robed man. His gaze fell on the man's 10 fingers, and he found that there were indeed traces of a spatial ring on one of his fingers, but the spatial ring had disappeared. Ling Xiao thumped his chest heavily, revealing an extremely pained expression as he wailed, "Damn it, someone from the Gu family came in and took away his spatial ring and golden dragon spear." Ling Xiao was very smart. Before he fainted, Gu Xiaohe had taken out the golden dragon spear, which immediately attracted the attention of the remnant soul here. Listening to the remnant soul's words, it seemed that the golden dragon spear originally belonged to him. It wasn't difficult to guess that someone had successfully entered this place and left without a hitch. However, he didn't know why the Gu family ancestor didn't take away the things in the other 2 abodes. However, when he thought about how rich this noble man's spatial ring was, the things in the other 2 abodes seemed much more ordinary in comparison. It was no wonder that he didn't covet those things anymore. What's this? Ling Xiao was just about to leave in disappointment when he saw an old container beside the noble man. The container was covered by a lid, so he couldn't see what was inside. Ling Xiao wouldn't underestimate anything in this place. Who knew, there might be some treasures that he had missed out. Ling Xiao took 2 steps forward and reached out to open the lid. Unexpectedly, as soon as Ling Xiao touched the lid, a strong repulsive force came from the lid. Ling Xiao was sent flying like a cannonball, and he only stopped when he crashed into a rock wall. Something's wrong. Ling Xiao shouted as he suppressed the churning blood in his body. He didn't expect this container to have a restriction, so it wasn't hard to guess that there must be something good inside. Ling Xiao became excited again. He took out the soaring fire sacred sword and tried to forcefully destroy the restriction on the container. At this time, Ling Xiao was attracted by the container, so he didn't notice that the dead man's eyes seemed to flash with a golden light. A golden light silently pounced towards him. Chapter 635. Ling Xiao raised the flying fire sword and fiercely slashed at the container. He had controlled this attack very well, only using 50% of his strength, for fear that he would destroy the treasure inside the container. Ding! The flying fire sword slashed open the container's lid. Before Ling Xiao could see what it was, he felt a pain in his knowledge sea, and a hoarse and ferocious voice sounded. "Damned lowlife, you almost made my soul scatter. Since you can't use your main body anymore, give your strong body to this king." This voice was the emperor-level remnant soul that had fought against Ling Xiao and the others. It had almost been destroyed by the sky suppression drum, and it had lost most of the soul power it had absorbed. It was afraid that this lowlife would attack it again, and if that happened, it would be very difficult for it to survive. Therefore, it had been hiding in its main body, not releasing any aura fluctuations, so that Ling Xiao couldn't sense it. Now, while Ling Xiao wasn't paying attention, it instantly flew out of its main body and entered Ling Xiao's knowledge sea. After the golden light entered the knowledge sea, it immediately transformed into the face of a middle-aged man. This face was the same as the face of the mighty man outside. When it saw that Ling Xiao's knowledge sea was so vast, and then looked at the pure and vast spiritual liquid, it couldn't help but laugh. "Good fellow, such a big knowledge sea, it's almost as vast as this king's knowledge sea in the past. Let's suck his knowledge sea dry first, this is a great tonic." It didn't notice the existence of the gray and blue beads in the other corner, and it opened its mouth to absorb Ling Xiao's spiritual liquid. In the blink of an eye, a lot of Ling Xiao's spiritual liquid was absorbed, and the face became more and more excited and greedy, and it couldn't help but speed up the absorption. "It's comfortable enough, isn't it?" A lazy voice sounded. The middle-aged face didn't turn around, and lightly replied, "Not bad." After saying that, it paused and looked in the direction of the voice, only to see Ling Xiao looking at it with his arms crossed. "I didn't expect a lowly commoner like you to be so calm. Have you accepted your fate?" That gloomy face looked at Ling Xiao and faintly said, "Ha, you remnant soul, no matter how awe-inspiring you were when you were alive, now that you've fallen into my hands, you're the true lowly commoner, laughed Ling Xiao. Although a lot of his spiritual fluid had been absorbed, it had not hurt his foundation, so he was not afraid to talk to the human face. How dare you be impudent to this king? Once I absorb all of your spiritual fluid, wipe your sea of consciousness, and occupy your body, let's see if you can still smile then. The face said faintly and began to absorb the spiritual fluid again, as if it did not care about Ling Xiao's existence. You still want to continue sucking, you are too greedy. Ling Xiao coldly snorted and immediately mobilized his spirit liquid. All the spiritual liquid transformed into countless sharp blades that pierced towards the face. You actually know how to attack with spiritual force. The remnant soul was very surprised to see the spiritual fluid that was attacking it. However, the remnant soul was extraordinary. It could actually form a defensive shield that blocked all the spiritual force attacks. Ling Xiao looked at the golden defensive shield that appeared in front of the remnant soul in astonishment. He really did not expect that the remnant soul would have such a magical method. It could actually block the spiritual force attacks, which really surprised him. Your spiritual force attacks are not bad, but it's still far from hurting me. If I hadn't been injured by the heaven-suppressing drum just now, I would have completely killed you now. The middle-aged man laughed sinisterly, then he opened his mouth and pounced towards Ling Xiao, obviously wanting to devour Ling Xiao's soul. Ling Xiao did not show a panicked expression. Instead, he even had a strange smile on his face. The middle-aged man looked at Ling Xiao's calm smile and for some reason, felt the sense of unease. It thought to itself, what kind of tricks can this lowly person have? He must be pretending to be calm. However, just as it approached Ling Xiao, a burning sensation hit it, causing it to immediately stop pouncing towards Ling Xiao. What's that? The middle-aged man exclaimed as he hurriedly retreated. He saw Ling Xiao playing with a blue flame in his hand. He looked at it with a playful smile on his face and said, "Come here, as long as you devour me, my body will be yours." The middle-aged man's expression immediately became extremely ugly. "I forgot that you have the heavenly fire. Good boy, we will meet again in the mountains and rivers. I pray that you will continue to be so lucky." After saying that, it quickly fled out of Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. The heavenly fire could burn anything, and the heavenly fire happened to be the nemesis of souls. Once it was touched, it would immediately be finished. "Since you're here, don't leave," Ling Xiao said lightly. Immediately afterward, a ball of blue flame appeared around his sea of consciousness. Just as the soul was about to burrow out, the blue flame suddenly burned, causing it to scream in pain from the scorching heat. "No, you damned lowly person, quickly let this king out." The face appeared again, its face distorted as it roared at Ling Xiao. You've absorbed so much of my spiritual power, you should at least show me something." Ling Xiao crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a faint smile, "Tell me, what do you want to show me? I'll give it to you." The face immediately agreed and said, right now, it had to trick this kid into letting it out. Otherwise, if it really died here, it wouldn't be reconciled to it. And this attitude is not bad. My request is not high, you can definitely do it. Ling Xiao said with a satisfied expression. "Tell me, no matter what level of Xian skill you want or what secret you want to know, I will definitely tell you everything." The face replied nervously. Ling Xiao revealed a playful smile and said, "I don't need any of these, I only need your soul." "Boy, are you playing with me? Do you know who this king is?" The face suddenly became angry and exclaimed, "I only know that you're a remnant soul, nothing else." Ling Xiao said lightly, "This king is the king of the Kim people's dynasty. If you know what's good for you, then let this king go." The face roared in shock, and a supreme power suppressed towards Ling Xiao. The Kim people's dynasty? Ling Xiao ignored the pressure of the face and replied in a daze. The face revealed a proud expression and said, "As long as you let this king go, I can tell you the high-level purple tier or even brown tier Xian skills. Otherwise, even if I have to risk my life, this king will not let you go easily. No matter who you are, but you have no right to challenge me here." Ling Xiao responded faintly, and then began to mobilize the surrounding heavenly fire to wrap around the face. "Pout, pout. You damned lowly commoner, quickly let me go. Otherwise, I'll make you die a horrible death." The face constantly cried out in fear. However, it discovered that the blue flames only wrapped around it and did not destroy it. Unexpectedly, runes condensed from mental power were imprinted on it. Are these high-level mental runes? What are you trying to do? The face became more and more uneasy as it roared. It was now compressed into a corner by the heavenly fire and did not dare to move. It could only watch as those mental runes imprinted on its soul. "You actually want to absorb me? Don't let me go. I can serve you as my master." The face constantly cried out in alarm. Unfortunately, Ling Xiao turned a deaf ear to it and continued to send out mental runes. Many runes wrapped around the face, making it difficult for it to make any sound. Ling Xiao let out a light sigh of relief, and then he immediately sat down cross-legged while a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He thought to himself, "There's a path to heaven, yet you refuse to take it, yet you insist on taking it when there's no door to hell. You just happen to fulfill my wish." Ling Xiao closed his eyes and started to absorb the emperor-rank soul with all his might. The strength of an emperor-rank soul wasn't like an ordinary soul. Moreover, the strength of this soul was a few tens of times stronger than the two quasi-emperor-rank souls he'd encountered earlier. Ling Xiao was sure that this emperor-rank soul had already attained the high or peak emperor rank. He couldn't understand why he had to bitterly guard that useless body of his. It should have been easy for him to possess someone else's body and be reborn, so why did he have to bitterly guard that useless body of his? Ling Xiao didn't pursue the matter, and he felt that everything would be understood once he completely absorbed the soul energy. Ling Xiao used an entire 7 days and 7 nights to completely absorb and refine the emperor-rank soul. His mental fluid had actually increased by a few times, and it was practically filling up his sea of consciousness. "Looks like I only need to absorb 1 or 2 more quasi-emperor souls to fill up my sea of consciousness," Ling Xiao murmured with satisfaction. However, when Ling Xiao thought about how there should be many more souls in the chaos abyss of war, he wasn't satisfied with just filling up his sea of consciousness. That would be a huge waste of resources. However, once his mental fluid reached a saturation state, the only way to increase it would be to expand his sea of consciousness. Expanding one's sea of knowledge wasn't an easy task. The only way to expand one's sea of knowledge was if one's strength advanced, or if one focused on using soul power to expand it bit by bit. That way, one could also expand one's sea of knowledge. But no matter which method it was rather slow, so the last method was to use some kind of spirit herb that was useful to the sea of consciousness to expand it. Of course, Ling Xiao wasn't in a hurry to use spirit herbs to expand his sea of consciousness. He needed to slowly digest all the memories of the soul and not let it disappear. Ling Xiao sat there for another half a month before he completely assimilated most of the useful memories of the soul into his own. Ling Xiao opened his eyes and revealed a joyful smile. "I've really made a killing this time. I didn't expect this guy to really be a prince of the Kim people's dynasty and also the younger brother of the Kim people's emperor from 100,000 years ago. Ha, the entire ancient emperor divine art is here. This is awesome." Ling Xiao didn't expect that the soul energy he obtained this time was actually related to his cultivation of the ancient emperor divine art. This time, he finally obtained the true version of the ancient emperor divine art. With this, he could unleash the true power of the ancient emperor divine art and cultivate it to its most perfect state. Thinking about this, Ling Xiao was really happy. At the same time, he finally understood why the Gu family could cultivate the ancient emperor divine art like him. It turned out that there was a secret that no one knew about. Chapter 636. The ancient emperor's divine technique was the secret of the Kim people's royal family. Only the direct descendants of the Kim people's royal family had the right to cultivate it. Moreover, one had to possess the royal bloodline to successfully cultivate it. It could be said that the Kim people's ancient emperor's divine technique was the exclusive secret of the Kim people. Even if others obtained it, It would be impossible for them to successfully cultivate it. Then why could Ling Xiao and the Gu family members cultivate it? Ling Xiao unraveled the mystery from the remnant soul's memory. It turned out that 5,000 years ago, an ancestor of the Gu family had also barged into the cave on this mountain. The elites from various forces had also entered with him. The situation was similar to this time. Most of those who entered the cave were killed by the remnant soul. Only the ancestor of the Gu family had survived. As for the ancestor of the Gu family, he had only survived because the remnant soul had given him a chance. Why was the remnant soul so merciful? It had mainly placed its hopes on the ancestor of the Gu family to be reborn. This matter had to be traced back to the battle at the Chaos Abyss 100,000 years ago. This remnant soul was originally a prince of the Kim people's dynasty. People called him the Zhan Prince. His cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of the Sage realm. He was only half a step away from the Holy Emperor realm. He had already cultivated the ancient emperor's divine technique to the highest level when he was alive. He only needed to destroy and rebuild to complete the step of immortality. However, he was domineering, fierce, brave, and good at fighting. He loved to lead troops to kill enemies. The Kim people was the strongest dynasty at that time. The other three dynasties were merely their subsidiary dynasties. In the battle at the Chaos Abyss, the three dynasties had joined forces to attack the Kim people's dynasty. The Zhan Prince had led nearly 1 million troops to fight against 1.5 million troops from the three dynasties. In this battle, the four dynasties had suffered heavy casualties. Countless elites had fallen. In that battle, the Zhan Prince had fought 3 high-level sages alone and was undefeatable. The battle between the 4 of them had been earth-shattering. They had almost flattened the Chaos Abyss. In the end, even though Zhan Wuxia killed those 3 saints, he himself was heavily injured and on the verge of death. However, every single one of his subordinates were ferocious existences, and all of them were extraordinary experts at the half-saint realm. They protected Zhan Wuxia as they carved out a bloody path. They opened up a cave in the mountain and set up restrictions to hide themselves. They would kill their way out after Zhan Wuxia recovered from his injuries. However, no matter how well they hid, they were eventually found by the people from the 3 great empires. The 4 Vajra warriors engaged in another fierce battle with the enemy. In the end, the 4 Vajra generals killed countless enemies, but they also exhausted their spiritual power and resources and died. Zhan Wuxia's physical body had yet to reach the undying body realm, and the Saint Tier arrow that had struck him had destroyed his heart and absorbed a large amount of his essence blood. His dantian had been shattered a long time ago, making it difficult for him to recover from his injuries. Zhan Wuxia knew that it was difficult to avoid the disaster, so he relied on the last bit of strength he had to recover from the external injuries on his physical body. After that, his soul left his lifeless body on its own. There was a price to pay for severing the connection between the soul and the physical body. Even though Zhan Wuxia had reached the half-step Holy Emperor realm, he was still greatly injured. His soul power had fallen to the peak of the Emperor rank. Of course, with his soul's current state, he could simply find a cultivator who was weaker than him and invade his mind to revive. However, Zhan Wuxia was a king of the Kim people's empire. His status was extremely noble, and his bloodline was extremely noble. Naturally, he did not want to use someone else's inferior physical body to revive. He wanted to find a spiritual item that could condense his dantian, reconstruct his dantian, activate the power of his bloodline, and return to his original physical body. Apart from that, he also hoped to cultivate the ancient emperor divine technique to great success through this revival and achieve the undying body. Thus, he waited in the cave for the experts from the Kim people's empire to come and rescue him. Unfortunately, after the battle at the chaotic abyss of war, the 4 empires all suffered heavy losses and could not recover. At this time, some of the smaller empires took advantage of the situation and split up the territories of the 4 empires. The Kim people's empire was the largest, so it was naturally attacked by many forces. In the end, it almost suffered the fate of being exterminated. Meanwhile, the chaotic abyss of war was also isolated by a spatial formation from the other empires, sealing it forever. Zhan Wangye's beautiful dream of waiting became a distant dream. 10,000 years ago, someone broke through the spatial formation. Only then did descendants enter the chaotic abyss of war from time to time. However, Zhan Wangye discovered that they were all weak cultivators. No one could help him find spiritual herbs or elixirs to reconstruct his dantian. Almost all the martial artists who had entered his immortal's cave were killed by him. Time passed, and Zhan Wangye knew that if this continued, his soul would dissipate sooner or later. However, as a member of the imperial family, he could not let go of his proud bloodline to invade a lowly commoner's body to revive. He would rather die than do that. 5,000 years ago, the arrival of the Gu clan's ancestor gave him hope. This was because the Gu clan's ancestor had a pure metal attribute and cultivated tenbin to an extremely high level. More importantly, his attribute was to the Zhan Wangye's liking. Therefore, the Zhan Wangye came up with a plan, which was to take the Gu clan's ancestor as his disciple. Then, he would tempt him into finding heaven-defying spiritual herbs or elixirs to reconstruct his dantian. The Gu clan's ancestor being able to survive was already a great fortune. On top of that, he was taken in as a disciple by a remnant soul, so he naturally accepted him as his master without any hesitation. However, the Zhan Wangye's thoughts were not so simple. He was afraid that his disciple would never return after receiving his teachings, so he specially modified the Kim people's ancient divine art chant, which became the Diamond 5 transformation technique that Ling Xiao later cultivated. The Diamond 5 transformation technique fell into the hands of the Gu clan's ancestor, which made him overjoyed. After all, the Zhan Wangye told him that as long as he cultivated it to the grand completion stage, he would obtain an immortal body. The Gu clan's ancestor immediately vowed that he would do his best to find the spirit herbs or elixirs that the Zhan Wangye needed. This was how the Gu clan's ancestor obtained the golden dragon spear and the Zhan Wangye's space ring. The Gu clan's ancestor was not a fool. After he obtained these things, he did not plan to resurrect the Zhan Wangye. After all, once an old monster like the Zhan Wangye came back to life, he did not know if the Zhan Wangye would become a threat to him. As for the golden dragon spear, he decided not to return it. However, the Gu clan's ancestor did not know that the Zhan Wangye had tampered with the Diamond 5 transformation technique and left behind an undetectable hidden injury in his knowledge sea. The Gu clan's ancestor originally had a chance to become a super master of the saint rank, but in the end he was disturbed by the hidden injury during his breakthrough, causing his heart demon to grow. His breakthrough failed and he died on the spot. The Zhan Wangye waited for the Gu clan's ancestor for thousands of years, but when the Gu clan's ancestor returned, he realized that he had misjudged him. As such, almost everyone who entered the cave mansion was killed by it. Gu Xiaohe returning with the golden dragon spear was naturally sensed by the Zhan Wangye. If it were not for Ling Xiao saving them, the Zhan Wangye would never have let them go. This was basically the cause and effect. However, Ling Xiao could not understand how his old master had obtained the ancient sovereign divine art's mnemonic chant. Could it be that his old master had met someone from the Gu clan? Or had there been some kind of fortuitous encounter? As for the reason behind this, Ling Xiao could not continue to delve into it. Fortunately, I now have the complete mnemonic chant. Otherwise, if I continued to cultivate it, I'm afraid something would go wrong. That was really dangerous. Ling Xiao sighed heavily as he muttered to himself. It turned out that the Diamond 5 transformation technique that he cultivated, if not for Savage Leopard accidentally seeing it, would not have known that this was the ancient sovereign divine art of the Kim people. Moreover, it required the royal bloodline to cultivate. Afterwards, he had used the Flood Dragon's blood essence to condense his bloodline, which could be considered as taking the right step and barely meeting some of the requirements of the divine art. Otherwise, if he had forcefully cultivated it, he would not have been able to reach this step and would have already died from life destruction. Now, the complete version of the ancient sovereign divine art did not only have the 5 transformation technique, but a total of 7 transformations. In addition to refining skin, refining meridians, refining viscera, refining bones, and refining blood, the other 2 transformations were refining consciousness and refining soul. Refining consciousness was a kind of mnemonic chant to cultivate the spiritual sea's defense. Once it was cultivated to the large success stage, it could prevent the spiritual sea from being invaded by foreign objects. It had the effect of consolidating the spiritual sea and helping in cultivation. At the same time, it could also form a defense in the spiritual sea that could block any kind of spiritual attack. Don't underestimate the role of refining consciousness. It looked simple, but Ling Xiao knew that this transformation was extremely important and precious. Any martial artist had to use the spiritual sea to reach the state of unity of human and human, speeding up the speed of spiritual energy absorption. When breaking through, they also needed to have a strong spiritual sense to help increase the chances of breaking through. The other role of defending the spiritual sea was even more amazing. Any martial artist knew that the spiritual sea was the most vulnerable part of everyone. Once the spiritual sea was damaged, it would affect the fate of a martial artist for the rest of their life. Refining consciousness could form a powerful defense in the spiritual sea. The importance of this role was self-evident. This was also the key reason why Ling Xiao was unable to destroy the Xianxia soul when he used his spiritual force to attack the Xianxia. In the past, the Xianxia could cultivate the ancient sovereign divine art to the large success stage. Ordinary spiritual force attacks could not cause any damage to it. Ling Xiao cultivated the soul-controlling art. Although it was a secret spiritual force attack method that reached the god level, it did not have a spiritual sea defense method. The sixth transformation of the ancient sovereign divine art was the icing on the cake. If he met someone who cultivated spiritual force in the future, he could still defend himself even if he couldn't beat them. Then he would have one more way to save his life. As for the last transformation, spirit refinement, it was the last transformation of the ancient emperor's divine technique. That was the real transformation. It could allow the body to reach the most perfect state. Whether it was combat or recovery ability, it was absolutely abnormal. However, this transformation was also the most difficult to cultivate. Since the establishment of the ancient sovereign divine art, no one had successfully cultivated the last transformation except for the first supreme elder. Because in order to achieve the large success stage of this transformation, one must experience destruction and then reconstruction, and be restrained in a deathly situation before they could successfully cultivate it. The danger of this transformation could be imagined, so not many people after Kim people dared to take this step. After all, the conditions required were too harsh. The last two transformations were still a little far for Ling Xiao. Right now, he had to recultivate the original ancient sovereign divine art, or else he would regret it if he left behind any unpredictable hidden injuries in the future. Chapter 637. Ling Xiao's gaze fell on the utensils he had opened. There were only some solidified golden objects in the vessel. From the Xianxia's memories, Ling Xiao knew that this was the essence blood the Xianxia released before he severed his connection to his physical body. This was so that when he was reborn, he would need it to activate his bloodline. Xianxia, the good stuff you left behind has helped me. Ling Xiao licked his lips as his eyes lit up. In order to cultivate the true ancient sovereign mystic art, one needed the Kim people's royal bloodline. This was because the Kim people's dynasty used to be so powerful. The first generation Kim people's ancestor cultivated the ancient sovereign mystic art to the highest level and successfully activated their bloodline's ability. The Kim people's direct descendants all benefited. The Kim people's bloodline had an extraordinary origin energy. It was not something normal people could understand. Now that Ling Xiao had obtained the true ancient emperor mystic arts chant, if he wanted to cultivate it again, he would need to have the royal bloodline. The Battle King had left behind his essence blood, so Ling Xiao had picked up a ready-made opportunity. Otherwise, even if he obtained the true ancient sovereign mystic art, he wouldn't be able to cultivate it. Ling Xiao picked up the utensil. It was a special utensil used by the ancient royal family. Don't look down on this utensil just because it was similar to a Pu Yong bowl, but it was a spirit tool. It was specially used to hold some high-grade spirit liquids, so that the spirit chi essence wouldn't leak out. Although the Xianxia's essence blood had been here for 100,000 years, it had not evaporated. Instead, it had solidified and the essence was still inside. An ordinary flame appeared in Ling Zhao's hand. The flame gently roasted the container and the solidified golden liquid began to slowly dissolve. The golden liquid was like a crystal top-grade nectar. There was no smell of blood at all. According to Ling Zhao's knowledge, each drop of essence blood was a top-grade healing item. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was comparable to a 7th-grade healing pill. One had to know that the Kim people's bloodline contained a powerful bloodline power. It was extremely effective in the path of healing. After the blood essence was completely dissolved, Ling Zhao immediately drank all the golden liquid in the vessel without saying anything. This was the Xianxia's essence blood. The boiling energy made Ling Zhao's throat ache. However, Ling Zhao wouldn't waste a single drop because of this. He endured the piercing pain and forcefully drank all of the blood essence. Strands of dense blood energy filled Ling Zhao's body. The golden light flickered incessantly. His skin and flesh swelled incessantly. The blood vessels in his body swelled to the point of pain as if they would explode at any moment. Ling Zhao immediately guarded his mind and started to circulate the true ancient sovereign divine art. He fused the essence blood with his own essence blood. At the same time, he sorted out his body once more, getting rid of the hidden injuries that he had been unable to notice all these years. As he fused with the essence blood, dragon roars seemed to resound from within Ling Zhao's body. It was extremely mystical. The image of a golden dragon appeared above his head. It was even more solid and mighty than before. Not only did the essence blood contain powerful blood energy, it even contained the remnant power of a sacred rancor. This remnant power should not be underestimated. It was a top-grade existence even for an emperor rank expert. Ling Zhao divided and absorbed this power into his 5-color dantian. His dantian actually grew stronger at a rapid pace, and his aura rose steadily. The fusion of his bloodline and the sudden increase in strength gave Ling Zhao an indescribably comfortable and calm feeling. His meridians, blood vessels, apertures, internal organs, and bones all received a new round of strengthening and expansion. All of his muscles seemed to have become a golden world, making him seem extremely extraordinary. Especially his golden waist, which seemed to have evolved into a dragon-shaped bone, looking vigorous and noble. Ling Zhao spent more than half a month to fuse with the essence blood. The quality of his original bloodline had truly improved by several times. He seemed even more dignified. It was as if his every movement and expression were filled with extreme dignity and nobility. No matter where he stood, he gave others the feeling that he was a noble, and his bearing was superior to others. The Ling Zhao of today had changed a lot from his previous self. His charm was extraordinary to begin with. Now that he looked like this, perhaps no woman could resist the visual impact of his appearance. However, in the past half a month, Ling Zhao only focused on the step of fusing with his bloodline. The power accumulated in his dantian was compressed and not refined by him. When the bloodline was completely fused, Ling Zhao no longer suppressed the energy that was about to overflow from his dantian. The energy in his 5-color dantian kept churning and roaring, as if it was about to explode Ling Zhao's strength. However, when Ling Zhao released it, most of the 5-colored energy overflowed and rushed toward the meridians all over his body. Bang bang! Powerful energy reverberated in Ling Zhao's body, and his aura also soared at this moment. He originally had the strength of a middle-stage Earth Emperor, and the moment he released the energy, his strength instantly reached the peak of the middle-stage Earth Emperor realm. The next moment, the middle-stage Earth Emperor realm was instantly broken through, and he reached the high-level Earth Emperor realm. However, his aura was still in a state where it was not exhausted, and it continued to rise. The high-level Earth Emperor realm was quickly filled up, and it rushed toward the middle and advanced realms. Then, it reached the peak of the Earth Emperor realm. His aura was simply unstoppable, and it actually continued to rush toward the Celestial Venerable realm. After a while, his aura actually approached the half-step Venerable realm, and his strength was still rising. Right at this moment, the surging imposing aura suddenly stopped. Moreover, the quasi-exalt realm energy had shrunk to its limit, and it actually returned to the peak earthly monarch realm. In the end, it stopped firmly at the peak earthly monarch realm, and it didn't fluctuate in the slightest. Ling Xiao suddenly opened his eyes, and two golden lights flashed. It was as if two small golden dragons were bursting out of his dragon eyes, and it was very shocking and dazzling. Ling Xiao revealed a smile that was like a spring breeze, and he muttered to himself, "This feels really good." However, this was not the end of his cultivation. It was just the beginning. Now that he had integrated the essence and blood of the Xianxia, he already possessed the purest bloodline of the Kim people's royal family. Of course, he had to cultivate the ancient Emperor Divine technique again. After making up his mind, Ling Xiao began to cultivate from the first transformation, the skin refining realm. This time, Ling Xiao spent nearly half a year cultivating, and it was only 2 months away from the 1-year deadline. Now, Ling Xiao seemed to have been reborn. His whole body was shining with golden light, and his skin, hair, and eyes had actually turned golden. He looked as mighty as a golden god of war. In the past 6 months, he had cultivated the first 5 transformations again, and his ancient Emperor Divine technique had successfully reached the 5th transformation, the blood refining realm. Now, his combat strength had become extremely terrifying. Originally, he could increase his combat strength by 8 times with the ancient Emperor Divine technique, but now it could increase to 15 times. In addition, he cultivated 5 attributes at the same time, so his combat strength had increased to more than 20 times. With his current strength, even if he fought against a high-level celestial venerable, he would still be invincible. Coupled with other trump cards, he could completely kill them with a single thought. At the same time, his physical defense had also improved by several levels, and he was directly immune to attacks below the divine tool level. His recovery ability was also abnormal. As long as his dantian was not destroyed, his sea of consciousness was not destroyed, and his heart was not destroyed, he could recover from any internal or external injuries in a short period of time. This time, Ling Xiao's harvest was really greater than any other time. "It's time to go out," Ling Xiao said with a satisfied smile. In fact, with his current state, he could completely concentrate on comprehending his own Tao to break through to the celestial venerable level. After all, the energy in his body was still abundant, but he didn't want to break through to the celestial venerable level so quickly, because he still wanted to obtain the title of the first sovereign. If he broke through to the celestial venerable level during this time, then his place would be considered invalid. Ling Xiao stood up and restrained his aura. His skin and hair returned to their original color at the same time. Although his golden body was quite cool, Ling Xiao didn't want to be too ostentatious, so it was better to keep his original appearance. However, no matter how his color was, his temperament had increased several times, and his charm index had also increased several times. When Ling Xiao left, he walked in front of the Xianxia's body. As expected of the Xianxia, who cultivated the ancient sovereign divine technique to the highest realm. This body has reached a state where nothing can invade it, and it has actually remained intact for 100,000 years. Truly amazing. Ling Xiao looked at the Xianxia's body and clicked his tongue. After a pause, he slightly cupped his hands towards the Xianxia and said, "No matter what, I still have to thank you for your gift." If the Xianxia was reborn and heard Ling Xiao's words, it was likely that he would jump out and fight to the death with Ling Xiao. He really was a guy who was showing off after obtaining Ping Yi. Ling Xiao put away all the top-grade pearls in the cave mansion and then took out the golden dragon spear. Yang Kai carefully examined the spear shaft carved with a dragon's body, looking at the simple and mysterious patterns on it, and softly praised, "What an excellent peak saint artifact." Then, he gently wiped the tip of the spear with one hand, causing a puddle of golden blood to flow out of his palm and drip onto the spearhead. Suddenly, a magnificent golden light bloomed, and a giant golden dragon soared into the sky, causing the cave mansion to shake continuously. The golden dragon roared, and all beasts were startled. "In the future, you will accompany me to conquer the central territory and show our might." Ling Xiao raised the spear and said proudly. The golden dragon spear seemed to be able to understand Ling Xiao's words, and actually issued a buzzing sound. The golden dragon was even more agile and roaring, making it look extraordinary. "Ha, good, dragon spear, break for me." Ling Xiao laughed wildly, and the golden dragon spear in his hand fiercely slammed into the cave mansion. A golden dragon fiercely slammed into the cave mansion, revealing a hole in it. At this moment, the cave mansion also began to collapse. On the flat land where the mountain had disappeared, the ground began to shake. Immediately after, a golden dragon broke out of the ground, and a human figure descended on the dragon. It was as if he was the son of the dragon, causing everyone to feel extremely dazzled. Chapter 638. Ling Xiao broke out of the hole and took a deep breath of the desolate air. He felt refreshed. He twisted his neck and smiled. There are still 2 more months before the 1-year period ends. Time really flies. I need to find some more emperor pills. I can't lose the position of champion. Although Ling Xiao had obtained more emperor pills in 2 places, who could be sure that others did not obtain more than him? Therefore, he needed to find other emperor pills as soon as possible to prevent the position of champion from being handed over to someone else. There are soul power fluctuations 15,000 meters away from here. Let's go there. Ling Xiao looked around and raised his eyebrows. Then he flew up. Now, his spiritual senses and speed were many times stronger than before. Before long, Ling Xiao arrived at a place where resentful spirits gathered. In a corner, Ling Xiao discovered the presence of 3 emperor pills. His face lit up with joy as he immediately headed towards the location of the emperor pills. Those resentful spirits raised their weapons and charged towards Ling Xiao. They were all heavenly venerables. Although they were weaker than real heavenly venerables, their attacks were not something that ordinary people could withstand. In the face of these vengeful spirits, Ling Xiao treated them like they were nothing. He didn't put them in his eyes at all. "Get the hell out of my way!" Ling Xiao shouted, and the blue flames immediately surged. Some of the resentful spirits closest to him were immediately burned to ashes. Many of them immediately felt fear and did not dare to approach Ling Xiao. Instead, they hid far away. Ling Xiao smiled. "At least you know what's good for you." Then he waved his hand and the 3 emperor pills were sucked into his hand. Ling Xiao was not interested in dealing with these resentful spirits. After keeping the emperor pills, he immediately went to the next location. For 10 days, Ling Xiao obtained a total of dozens of emperor pills in several different places. This number disappointed Ling Xiao. Compared to the previous 2 places, his harvest was indeed a little less. But if others were to find out about this, they would probably kill themselves with a piece of tofu. After all, it was quite difficult for them to deal with these resentful spirits. Even if they found emperor pills, they might not be able to get them. It was already very lucky to get a dozen in a month. Yet Ling Xiao found so many in just 10 days. Yet he actually despised them. This was really a blow to their confidence. On this day, Ling Xiao sensed a powerful soul power in the north. He was sure that it was a half-step emperor rank remnant soul. In the past, Ling Xiao would not dare to fight with such remnant souls. If his soul power did not injure them, he would be the one to die. But now, his strength had improved greatly while his spiritual energy was inexhaustible, so it wasn't so difficult for him to deal with and absorb the soul of a quasi-emperor. However, when Ling Xiao was about to reach the place, he discovered that the remnant soul's aura had actually weakened. At the same time, he realized that someone was fighting with the remnant soul. Ling Xiao flew to that place and discovered that there were 10 Earth Emperor dressed in black martial robes fighting with the vengeful spirits. No, they weren't fighting. It should be said that they were using spiritual tools to absorb resentful spirits. The 10 of them were the Earth Kings from the Black Demon sect. They were holding the Spirit Convening Lamp, which was specially used to absorb resentful souls. No wonder they were fearless among these vengeful spirits. It was the Devil Son of the Black Demon sect that was fighting the remnant soul of the Half-Step Sovereign. He wore a set of black armor, and his entire body was emitting a dense black mist. In one hand he held a blood-red broadsword, and in the other, a black shield with the face of a ghost. He actually gained the upper hand in the battle against the remnant soul of the Quasi-the-Arch by relying on this set of equipment. Ling Xiao noticed that the weapon in the Devil Sun's hand was definitely a half-step sacred artifact. Otherwise, it was impossible for the Devil Sun to challenge the remnant soul of a half-step emperor with his strength. The Black Demon Sect? This is the force established by me, Cruel Leopard. Since we've met, I'll give them a big gift in advance. Ling Xiao muttered to himself. Although Ling Xiao had no grievances with the Black Demon Sect so far, the Black Demon Sect was established by his servants, Cruel Leopard and Mad Tooth. Now, it belonged to someone else. As the master, he naturally had the obligation to do something for them. If you don't want to die, you'd better get out of here. An Earth King of the Black Demon Sect flew in front of Ling Xiao and threatened him. Then, he seemed to think of something and said, "Hand over the space ring before you get out of here." Ling Xiao really didn't expect that they would come to his door before he could do anything. Ling Xiao sneered and said, "Are you trying to rob me? I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Don't you know that we're from the Black Demon Sect? Hand over the space ring." The Earth King shouted with a gloomy face. Then, he actually grabbed Ling Xiao's hand that was holding the space ring. It seemed that he wanted to rob it. Just as the Earth King of the Black Demon Sect was about to grab Ling Xiao's hand, Ling Xiao was one step ahead and grabbed the man's hand. The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect was slightly stunned. He wanted to pull his hand back, but he found that the opponent's hand was very strong. So, without thinking, he kicked toward Ling Xiao's crotch. This kick contained his most powerful attack, and a strong corrosive attribute was emitted. Ling Xiao sneered and gently twisted the hand that was grabbing the Earth King of the Black Demon Sect. Before the man could kick Ling Xiao, his arm was abruptly twisted by Ling Xiao, and he let out a scream. This sound immediately attracted the attention of the other people of the Black Demon Sect, and the Devil's Sun coincidentally blasted away the remnant soul of the half-step emperor. "Who dares to attack the Black Demon Sect?" The Devil's Sun said with a cold smile. He led the other 8 people to surround Ling Xiao. My hand is broken, I'm going to kill you." The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect shouted ferociously, and a short blade shot out from the sleeve of his other hand. This short blade was fast and swift, and it went straight for Ling Xiao's throat. As the distance between Ling Xiao and the opponent was too close, and Ling Xiao did not expect this guy to have the universe in his sleeve, the short blade pierced Ling Xiao's throat. The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect thought that Ling Xiao would die after being shot by the short blade, and said coldly, "I gave you a way to live, but you didn't want it. You just had to fight against the people of the Black Demon Sect. You really don't know what's good for you." Unfortunately, just as he finished speaking, the short blade that was stuck in Ling Xiao's throat fell. It turned out that Ling Xiao had used his chin to clamp the short blade. Of course, the short blade had indeed pierced his throat, but it could not pierce through Ling Xiao's throat. "Who doesn't know what's good for him?" Ling Xiao said faintly, and his dragon eyes shot a fierce light. The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect felt a chill in his heart, as if a peerless dragon was pouncing on him. Bang! Ling Xiao punched the man's face without any fancy moves. The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect's nose was bleeding, and he screamed in pain. "How dare you? It's fine to offend the Medicine Sect, but you dare to offend the Black Demon Sect as well. I don't know where you got the courage to challenge us." The Devil's Son said with a faint smile on his devilish handsome face, as if he was not angry at his own people being beaten. "Is the Black Demon Sect that powerful?" Ling Xiao casually let go of the Earth King of the Black Demon Sect, who had been punched by him. "I'm going to kill you." The Earth King of the Black Demon Sect was humiliated by his opponent, and he immediately shouted, intending to attack Ling Xiao. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his head, and his consciousness became blank. Bang! His head instantly burst like a watermelon, and blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. It was very disgusting. The Devil's Son and the people of the Black Demon Sect around him stiffened. They did not expect that their companion, who was perfectly fine just a moment ago, would suddenly die. Of course, they knew that the person in front of them had something to do with it. "Cripple him, but don't let him die too quickly. I want to pull out his soul, and then slowly torture him to death. The devil's son said faintly. As soon as he finished speaking, the rest of the people of the Black Demon sect immediately released a powerful aura, locking Ling Xiao in the middle. At the same time, one of them held a sickle and rushed towards Ling Xiao to kill. Just in time, let me use you to test the power of my Tyrant Dragon Spear technique. Ling Xiao was not afraid. Instead, he showed a look of excitement. When the person came in front of Ling Xiao, a golden spear appeared in Ling Xiao's hand. With the appearance of the spear, the shadow of a golden dragon soared into the sky, and the dragon's roar shocked all directions. What a powerful spiritual weapon! No, is this a sacred weapon? The calm devil's son looked at the mighty and huge shadow of the dragon and murmured. The person who was rushing towards Ling Xiao was also shocked by the sudden appearance of the dragon. Just as he was lost in thought, the golden dragon spear had already pierced towards him. A simple move, without any hindrance, pierced through the person's body. Let's attack together and kill him. The devil's son immediately ordered. He stared at Ling Xiao's golden spear and thought to himself, is there another golden dragon spear like the Gu family? That's impossible, right? The remaining 7 people of the Black Demon sect attacked together, and a series of black attack waves covered Ling Xiao. All of them were peak earthly emperors, and they were much stronger than those of the same level. They all had 7th-grade spiritual weapons in their hands, and their attacks could seriously injure or kill a low-level heavenly venerable on the spot. Ling Xiao, who was surrounded in the middle, did not use his speed to escape these attacks like before. Instead, he slowly spun the golden dragon spear, and the metal attribute spiritual energy in his body surged out. The golden dragon spear shone even brighter, and the golden dragon became more solid. Tyrant Dragon Spear Technique's first move, Tyrant Dragon's Descent. Ling Xiao roared and waved the golden dragon spear in his hand. The golden dragon above him seemed to come to life, and with a loud dragon roar, its huge body spun down like a real dragon descending into the world, shocking and terrifying. The hearts of the devil child and the other 7 were shaken, and a chill ran through their bodies. In front of this 100-meter-long dragon, they were like lowly ants. Run, all of you! The black shield in the devil's son's hand emitted a demonic light, and he regained his clarity. He immediately shouted at his people, and without hesitation he turned and ran. Rumble! Chapter 639. The golden dragon continued to wreak havoc in the sky like a giant. Bursts of terrifying vibrations made people's eardrums hurt. The clouds in the surroundings were crushed by the dragon's body and turned into smoke. Only beams of golden light continued to fall. The ground below was smashed into terrible deep pits, and stone chips flew everywhere. After a long time, when everything had calmed down, a figure holding a golden dragon stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His expression was cold, and his appearance was indescribably mighty. Ling Xiao looked around at the people of the Black Demon sect who had already disappeared, and a faint smile appeared on his face. He said, "It's worthy of being a brown-level Xian skill. It lives up to its name of tyrannical dragon. One move was enough to destroy them, and not even their dregs were left. It's even better than the first 3 moves of the Sword Tyrant spell. Unfortunately, there's still one fish that slipped through the net." Why did Ling Xiao suddenly use the Tyrannical Dragon Spear technique? In fact, the Tyrannical Dragon Spear technique was the spear technique that the Xianxia had relied on to become famous during his lifetime. It had already reached the brown level, which was a saint-level Xian skill. Its power could be said to be terrifying. Ling Xiao had absorbed the Xianxia's soul power and had also absorbed most of the Xianxia's memories. The Xianxia was worthy of being a king of the Qin people's dynasty. He was proficient in all kinds of high-level Xian skills during his lifetime. Moreover, he cultivated Tenbin, which made him a top-notch existence in the Qin people's dynasty. His fighting strength was extraordinary. Ling Xiao had obtained his memories. It was as if he had obtained a martial arts treasure house. There were several terrifying Xian skills. They were extremely rare even in the ancient times, and they were the top martial arts in the central region today. Ling Xiao had absorbed the remnant souls of the 2 quasi-sovereigns. There were many high-level Xian skills in their memories. This was undoubtedly another kind of inheritance for Ling Xiao. If he wanted to establish a force, he needed a deep foundation, and these inherited memories were Ling Xiao's own foundation. In the future, he would rely on these memories to forge his force into the most elite existence. Ling Xiao's ancient emperor's divine technique was no longer what it used to be, and he even had the golden dragon spear in his possession. Of course, he would not foolishly send the golden dragon spear back to the Gu family. He had saved Gu Xiaohe several times previously because he wanted to find out if the ancient emperor's divine technique originated from the Gu family. He wanted to see if there was a chance for him to obtain the real ancient emperor's divine technique. Now, there was no need for him to look for the Gu clan. After all, the Gu clan was also cultivating a fake ancient emperor divine arts. As for the tyrant dragon spear art, it was something that Ling Xiao had cultivated while cultivating the ancient emperor divine technique. Although he had a lot of profound skills that he could use now, following the increase in his strength, those profound skills could no longer satisfy him. Now that there were better profound skills, he naturally absorbed and used them to his heart's content. One had to know that he was extremely obsessed with all kinds of martial arts in his previous life and this life. Just now, Ling Xiao had killed the 7 peak Earth Emperors of the Black Demon sect in one move, which made him feel very satisfied. However, the Devil's Son had seen the opportunity early and escaped quickly, so he did not manage to kill him. Ling Xiao had tested out the true power of the Tyrant Dragon Spear art and was very satisfied with how terrifying it was. Ling Xiao looked around and found that there were no more imperial elixirs here. It must have been taken away by the Devil's Son. He did not stay and immediately rushed to other places to look for imperial elixirs. 3 days later, in a broken cliff, a young man holding a spear staggered and knelt on the edge of the broken cliff. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. The young man's clothes had become extremely messy and sloppy, and there were many scars on his body. His scattered hair covered his pale face. He gritted his teeth, endured his injuries, and flew to the bottom of the broken cliff. Then he opened a hole in the cliff wall and immediately went in, then sealed the hole. After doing all this, he completely concealed his aura, then took out a few healing elixirs and threw them into his mouth, entering a state of recovery. Upon closer inspection, this young man was actually Ling Xiao's little brother, Yunfeng. He looked like he had been seriously injured and urgently needed quiet time to recuperate. When he first entered the abyss of war, Yunfeng was just a high-level Earth Emperor. Now that almost a year had passed, he had actually reached the peak of the Earth Emperor realm. Obviously, he must have had a fortuitous encounter during this period of time. One had to know that it was not that easy for a person to reach the peak of the Earth Emperor realm from a high-level Earth Emperor without the help of spirit herbs or elixirs. Moreover, in this place where spiritual energy was extremely scarce, it was even more impossible to advance so quickly. While Yi Yunfeng was recuperating, there was a group of people not far from the broken cliff looking for something. They looked very angry. There were a total of 35 people in this group, and they were basically all high-level Earth Emperors. The person in the lead was the same as Ling Xiao, Yunfeng, and the others. He was one of the top 10 in the Blue Sun City Minor competition, Tuoba Yuan. His current team was no longer just a dozen people. During this period of time, he encountered 2 teams that had fought. In the end, he killed the leaders of the 2 teams and some of the people who did not obey, and gathered the people who surrendered together. Tuoba Yuan, who was the most powerful, had become their leader. The others did not dare to have any complaints. Tuoba Yuan strode forward with a dignified expression. He frowned slightly and said to Gu Mingzhu, who was beside him, "Mingzhu, take out the blood-flying insect." The beautiful woman behind him nodded and said, "All right." Following that, a winged insect the size of a palm appeared in Gu Mingzhu's hand. This insect looked very ugly. Its nose was very thick, and its mouth was very sharp. The GG sound it made was ear-piercing and uncomfortable. The blood-flying insect was a 3rd-rank spirit beast that liked to feast on human blood. It carried a strong poison, and if a person below the king rank was bitten by it, They would die within a quarter of an hour if they didn't have an antidote pill. The blood-flying insect had another special characteristic, and that was that it was especially sensitive to human blood. Generally, the smell of blood within a few thousand meters would not escape its nose. Its nose was not much weaker than the celestial hound beast's. Gu Mingzhu gently tossed the blood-flying insect into the air and shouted, "Go!" The blood-flying insect circled above everyone's heads as if it was looking for a direction. After a while, it suddenly flew in a certain direction. Tuoba Yuan revealed a slightly angry expression and muttered, "Let's see how you're going to run now. You actually dare to look down on me, Tuoba Yuan? You're simply courting death." He then took the lead and chased after the blood-flying insect. The others also chased after him. Only the other beautiful figure seemed to hesitate for a moment, but in the end, she also followed. Yi Yunfeng, who was in the middle of healing, immediately sensed a large group of people rushing in his direction. He stopped healing and rushed out of the cave without thinking. He had already concealed all his aura. Even a heavenly venerable wouldn't be able to find him easily. He didn't expect that the other party would still chase after him. "Yi Yunfeng, you can't escape. Why waste your energy?" Tuoba Yuan's cold voice rang out behind Yi Yunfeng. Yi Yunfeng's heart had already fallen to the bottom of the valley. He had only recovered 50% of his injuries. How could he escape from Tuoba Yuan and the others? Yi Yunfeng gritted his teeth and stopped in his tracks. He summoned the Earth Yellow Lion and held the spear horizontally in front of him as he roared, "Come! I won't let anyone who dares to take my life get away with it." Yi Yunfeng was already prepared to fight to the death. His aura reached its peak. At the same time, a golden shield appeared in his hand. This golden shield emitted a powerful aura. Rays of light flowed around Yunfeng. The golden light flickered continuously, and the shadow of a heavily armored beast swayed continuously. It was extremely dazzling. This was a defensive shield that had reached the level of a half-step sage artifact. "Looks like you still don't understand the situation. Wuling Weilin, you two killed him. He's already severely injured now. The two of you are enough to kill him," Tuoba Yuan said coldly. Originally, there was no need for them to go through so much trouble to chase after Yi Yunfeng. However, an incident 3 days ago had infuriated Tuoba Yuan. 3 days ago, they had discovered a domain with many resentful spirits. Usually, there would be the arch elixirs in such a domain. Hence, they had rushed over to search for them. Unexpectedly, there was a remnant soul of a half-step the arch. However, the remnant soul was in an extremely weak state. It was obvious that its soul power was about to dissipate. Furthermore, there were dozens of the arch elixirs and a half-step sage artifact shield in front of the remnant soul. With the arch elixirs and half-step sage artifacts, Tuoba Yuan and the others naturally wouldn't let go of such good things. Furthermore, the remnant soul of a half-step the arch was about to die, which made them even more delighted. Just as Tuoba Yuan and the others were about to disperse the remnant soul of a half-step sage artifact, Yi Yunfeng suddenly appeared. He had only sensed an aura fluctuation here, so he had rushed over to take a look. He wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could challenge Tuoba Yuan and the others alone. Who knew that the remnant soul of a half-step the arch would actually grab all the arch elixirs and golden shield at the last moment and pounce towards Yi Yunfeng. That remnant soul actually burrowed into Yunfeng's consciousness in an instant, and the arch elixirs and golden shield all landed in front of him. Yi Yunfeng thought that the remnant soul was going to devour his soul and take over his body. Who knew that the remnant soul actually didn't do anything? As for the arch elixirs and golden shield that came to him, he didn't stand on ceremony and kept them. It was precisely because of this that Yi Yunfeng and Tuoba Yuan became enemies. In the end, he had to face the continuous pursuit of Tuoba Yuan and the others. However, Yunfeng also had other fortuitous encounters during this period of time. His strength had improved greatly, and his battle prowess had also become much stronger. Therefore, when faced with the pursuit of Tuoba Yuan and the others, he was still able to kill 3 people and escape. However, he had also paid a huge price. Now, he had no way of escaping anymore. Even if he handed over everything, Tuoba Yuan wouldn't let him off. Wu Ling and Wei Lin were both peak earthly sovereigns. Their protective spirit beasts were the red-patterned leopard and the green-eyed flying bird, which were both advanced 5th-grade spirit beasts. Come on, even if I, Yunfeng, die, I will drag you two down with me. Yi Yunfeng's spear shook and his entire body shot out. The spear emitted a dazzling radiance in midair. Originally, Yi Yunfeng had the wind shoes that Ling Xiao had given him, so his speed was 2 or 3 times faster than an ordinary earthly sovereign. Unfortunately, he was severely injured, so the wind shoes only allowed him to maintain his normal speed. There was no advantage to speak of. Chapter 640. Yi Yunfeng was already prepared to die, so he used all his strength in this attack, tripling his combat power at this moment. Wu Ling and Wei Lin both knew that Yi Yunfeng was tough, so they did not dare to be careless. The two also began to use their full strength. Bursts of powerful attribute lights intertwined with each other, and a world-shaking sound spread out in all directions. The yellow earth lion, on the other hand, was entangled with the red-patterned leopard and the green-eyed bird. 1 against 2, the situation was quite bad. Yi Yunfeng's combat power could only be maintained for 2 hours, but tripling his combat power was no joke. Wu Ling and Wei Lin were forced to retreat step by step, and they looked indescribably embarrassed. The two of them were forced into this situation mainly because they did not dare to risk their lives like Yi Yunfeng did. Moreover, Yi Yunfeng had a half-grade defensive sacred weapon, which the two of them could not break. You want to take my life? You are not qualified. Yi Yunfeng roared ferociously, and the long spear in his hand turned into several huge solid spear shadows that smashed at the two at the same time. The powerful force caused Wu Ling and Wei Lin to retreat more than 10 meters at the same time. Wu Ling was also infuriated after being suppressed. He decided to use his trump card. He spun the flaming sword in his hand a few times, and waves of flames appeared on the sword. Then he shouted, "Blazing Golden Mountain!" The raging fire rushed straight at Yi Yunfeng like a tide, and the scorching heat was extremely uncomfortable. On the other side, Wei Lin took out a thin blue rope from his spatial ring. This rope exuded wisps of blue light and looked extremely extraordinary. I didn't want to take it out, but I can't disappoint the leader. I can only let you taste the power of my spirit-binding rope, Wei Lin murmured with a gloomy face, and then raised the blue rod to block Yi Yunfeng's spear shadows with all his strength, planning to find an opportunity to tie Yi Yunfeng up. Although Wu Ling's fire was strong, it still could not stop the bombardment of Yi Yunfeng's tripled combat power. The sea of fire was dispersed by the golden spear, and the spear shadows still smashed toward Wu Ling bravely. Wu Ling raised his sword to block, but was still sent flying far away, blood spilling from his mouth. Wei Lin, on the other hand, fared much better than Wu Ling. He did not choose to clash head-on with Wu Ling. Instead, he used all his strength to defend and parry, so he did not suffer much damage. Yi Yunfeng also took advantage of the situation and charged towards Wu Ling. After all, Wu Ling was already injured. Yi Yunfeng could kill as many people as he could. Should we make a move? Gu Mingzhu asked Tuoba Yuan. Tuoba Yuan shook his head and said, "No need. If they can't even kill the injured Yi Yunfeng, then they don't deserve to continue following us." Actually, Tuoba Yuan did not think so in his heart. There wasn't much time left until they left. Although the majority of the emperor pills they obtained belonged to him, he wasn't satisfied with just this little bit. If Wu Ling and Wei Lin could kill Yi Yunfeng, then Yi Yunfeng's emperor elixir would still belong to him. If Wu Ling and Wei Lin were accidentally killed by Yi Yunfeng, that would be even more in line with Tuoba Yuan's intentions. That way, he could openly take Wu Ling and Wei Lin's emperor cores. In any case, even if Yi Yunfeng killed the two of them, Yi Yunfeng would still not be able to escape the fate of being surrounded and killed. This was Tuoba Yuan's true intention. His thoughts were truly difficult for others to guess. He was born with the potential to be a leader. Not only was his ability outstanding, but he was also ruthless and his schemes were deep and unfathomable. Yi Yunfeng chased after Wu Ling with all his might. Although Wu Ling tried his best to block, He was constantly bombarded by Yi Yunfeng's powerful strength until he was in a sorry state, and his injuries became even more severe. Seeing that Yi Yunfeng was about to stab Wu Ling to death with his spear, Wei Lin seized this rare opportunity from behind. "Go!" Wei Lin shouted in joy. The spirit-binding rope in his hand shot towards Yi Yunfeng's body like a snake. Yi Yunfeng had always known that Wei Lin was behind him, but he did not expect the other party to throw a thin rope at him. Although he did not know what was so powerful about this rope, he did not want to give up the opportunity to kill Wu Ling. Moreover, he had the Golden Shield's defense, so the rope's attack might not be able to cause any harm to him. "Go to hell." Yi Yunfeng hardened his heart and concentrated all his strength on the long spear. The long spear pierced towards Wu Ling's chest like a dragon. Wu Ling had already been seriously injured by Yi Yunfeng's attacks just now. His reaction speed had dropped drastically, but it did not mean that he had resigned himself to his fate. He blocked Yi Yunfeng's long spear with his sword, but his strength was much weaker than Yi Yunfeng's. His sword did not deflect the long spear and only allowed him to avoid the disaster of being pierced through his chest. However, his shoulder was still ruthlessly pierced through. Wu Ling let out a blood-curdling scream. The long sword in his hand was still slashing towards Yi Yunfeng. It seemed that he did not want Yi Yunfeng to have an easy time even though he was injured. He planned to exchange blows with Yi Yunfeng. Yi Yunfeng immediately used the golden shield to block in front of him. Wu Ling's sword did not have any effect on him. Instead, he was shaken by the shield's powerful force and fell to the ground. His injuries worsened, and it was difficult for him to continue fighting. However, even though Wu Ling had been defeated by Yi Yunfeng, his sword had completely attracted Yi Yunfeng's attention. As expected, Wei Lin's spirit-binding rope had tightly bound Yi Yunfeng from behind. "Haha, let's see how you can escape now." Wei Lin laughed proudly. At the same time, he raised his green rod and attacked Yi Yunfeng. "You want to tie me up with a mere rope? You are too naive." Yi Yunfeng's whole body was tied up by the green rope, but he was still not afraid. The time limit of his combat power had not expired yet. Could it be that he could not even break the rope? Unfortunately, Yi Yunfeng was wrong this time. The toughness of the rope was beyond his imagination. The more he struggled, the more the rope shrank. At this time, Wei Lin's green rod was already coming towards him. Yi Yunfeng quickly twisted his body to avoid the blow to his head. However, his body was still hit by Wei Lin's rod a few times. Blood flowed out continuously, and the golden shield in his hand also fell from his hand. This time, Yi Yunfeng was in danger. "Bastard!" Yi Yunfeng gritted his teeth and used all his strength. He did not believe that the rope could really tie him up. "Don't waste your time. This is refined from thousands of years old green tenacious vines. Only a high-level spiritual weapon can cut it. Although you are strong, you are not strong enough to break it." Wei Lin sneered. He did not go to kill Yi Yunfeng. Instead, he went to get the golden shield first. Wei Lin wanted to keep the golden shield immediately, but at this moment, he felt as if something was staring at him from behind, which made his body and mind tremble. Wei Lin hesitated for a moment, turned around, and quickly flew towards Tuoba Yuan with the golden shield. Then he respectfully handed the golden shield to Tuoba Yuan and said, "Leader, Yi Yunfeng has been captured. There is no need to fear him. This shield is just right for you. Take it." Wei Lin was sure that the person who was staring at him just now was Tuoba Yuan. Although they were allies, Tuoba Yuan was the most powerful person among them. Moreover, once he attacked, he would immediately take someone's life. Although Wei Lin wanted the golden shield, he was not arrogant enough to go against Tuoba Yuan. Therefore, he could only obediently hand over the golden shield. Tuoba Yuan did not stand on ceremony and immediately kept the golden shield. He sneered in his heart, "At least you know what's good for you." Yi Yunfeng was ruthlessly beaten up by the others. His injuries worsened, and the duration of his 3 times combat strength was almost over. It was impossible for him to escape even if he wanted to. He knew that he was going to die. His eyes were filled with a strong sense of unwillingness. His dantian began to spin rapidly, and his aura continued to rise. "Kill him. He is going to self-destruct." Tuoba Yuan's senses were very strong. He immediately shouted at the people who were beating up Yi Yunfeng. However, at this moment, a beautiful figure quickly rushed out from the crowd. She grabbed Yi Yunfeng and began to run at full speed. "Brother Tuoba, it's that girl, Gu Jiaojiao." Gu Mingzhu immediately exclaimed. "If I knew that this B*teach was unreliable, I would have chased after her. We definitely can't let them escape." Tuoba Yuan shouted with a gloomy face. He immediately chased after Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yunfeng. Gu Jiaojiao did not seem to struggle at all while carrying Yi Yunfeng. Moreover, her speed was extremely fast because she had already taken a high-tier elixir that increased her speed. However, although she was fast, Tuoba Yuan and the others who were chasing after her were not slow either. The distance between them was less than 2,000 meters, one in front and one behind. Miss Gu, why did you save me?" Yi Yunfeng did not expect Gu Jiaojiao to actually save him. This made him feel extremely touched. After all, he had always liked Gu Jiaojiao. "I saved you because of Brother Ling, don't think too much about it." Gu Jiaojiao attacked Yi Yunfeng mercilessly. At the same time, a sharp short blade appeared in her hand. She cut the green rope that bound Yi Yunfeng. "Hurry up and take the elixir to recover. I'll give you a lift. When the time comes, we'll split up and escape. As long as we survive these 2 months, they won't dare to do anything to me outside," Gu Jiaojiao said hurriedly. Yi Yunfeng smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Then he struggled out of Gu Jiaojiao's embrace and said, "Miss Gu, you should go. I can't escape. I'll block them for you." After saying that, Yi Yunfeng went to meet Tuoba Yuan and the others. His threefold combat strength was almost over. He could only fight for a little more time for Gu Jiaojiao to escape. He already had no regrets when Gu Jiaojiao risked her life to save him before he died. For some reason, Gu Jiaojiao's beautiful eyes were filled with admiration when she saw Yi Yunfeng leave with the determination to die. "Since you want to be a hero, I'll give you this chance." Gu Jiaojiao did not think of going back to risk her life for Yi Yunfeng. However, when she wanted to escape again, Tuoba Yuan's men had already intercepted her. In front of them, Yi Yunfeng could not last more than a few rounds before he was captured. "Kill this adulterous couple." Tuoba Yuan shouted coldly and mercilessly. Before Yi Yunfeng died, he glanced at Gu Jiaojiao. His face was filled with hostility as he roared, "You guys can die with me. Farewell, boss." Just as Yi Yunfeng was about to self-destruct, a thunderous voice came from the sky. "Who the F***ck is saying farewell to you?" Chapter 641. Yi Yunfeng's energy center had already filled up, and his entire body's aura was rising to a terrifying level. Tuoba Yuan naturally would not give him the chance to self-destruct. The people beside him had already raised their weapons, and Yi Yunfeng's head was about to fall to the ground in the next second. However, at this moment, a terrifying roar rang out. This sound was like a dragon's roar, and it shook everyone to the point of dizziness. Their eardrums were ringing non-stop. This sound had come from thousands of meters away. If it had come from right next to them, they would not just be dizzy. They would most likely die on the spot. A golden dragon shadow was charging towards them from afar at an extremely fast speed. Yi Yunfeng could no longer control his energy center, and the explosion was about to happen in the next second. A powerful palm instantly grabbed Yi Yunfeng's shoulder, and a powerful wave of spiritual power was continuously transmitted from that palm into Yi Yunfeng's body. That powerful spiritual power actually went straight to Yi Yunfeng's energy center, wrapping it in layers and compressing it, making it difficult for it to explode. "Stop immediately!" That voice rang out in Yi Yunfeng's dizzy mind. Hearing that familiar voice, Yi Yunfeng immediately snapped out of his trance as if he had heard the voice of the heavens. His dantian, which had been suppressed by the external force and could not explode, immediately stopped expanding and stabilized under his guidance. That person withdrew his palm and immediately took out a few healing elixirs and crushed a supreme-grade blood crystal. Then he stuffed the essence energy into Yunfeng's mouth. After Yi Yunfeng continuously consumed the elixirs and supreme-grade blood crystal, he immediately recovered a lot. Boss. I thought I would never see you again. Yi Yunfeng looked at the face that was right in front of him and said happily. He really did not expect that his boss would appear here. His nervous heart also calmed down at this moment. With his boss here, even if the sky fell, his boss would still be able to withstand it. The admiration he had for his boss was not something that others could easily understand. You've disgraced me. You can't even deal with these small fries. Get out of my way and heal. Ling Xiao grabbed Yunfeng, ignoring his wounds and tossing him to the side so he could heal himself. Boss, Miss Gu offended them to save me. Please help her. Yi Yunfeng didn't forget to remind Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao understood. In a flash, he appeared beside Gu Jiaojiao, who was still dizzy, and brought her back to Yi Yunfeng. Gu Jiaojiao's head was still spinning, but she had already seen Ling Xiao clearly. She couldn't help but exclaim, Ling Xiao, why are you here? He, you don't want me to come? Ling Xiao laughed. It's better if you don't come. Anyway, it's just your little brother who died, Gu Jiaojiao said. Alright, you guys step aside. Leave them to me. Ling Xiao said indifferently with a cold smile on his face. A thick killing intent began to spread from his body. You actually injured my little brother to this extent. You must be tired of living. Ling Xiao thought to himself. At this moment, the dizzy people who had been shaken by Ling Xiao's sound waves all woke up. Tuoba Yuan stared at Ling Xiao with a dark expression. I didn't expect you to appear here. I also didn't expect you to dare to kill my little brother. Are you going to kill yourself? Or do you want me to do it? Ling Xiao said faintly with his arms crossed. Ling Xiao, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have a few tricks up your sleeve. Others might be afraid of you, but that doesn't mean that I, Tuoba Yuan, am afraid of you. Tuoba Yuan looked up to the sky and laughed. He paused for a moment before saying, for your sake, as long as you make Yi Yunfeng hand over the Emperor elixir that he stole from me, I'll let this matter go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Tuoba Yuan was somewhat afraid of Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao had already displayed shocking strength in front of them. Moreover, he wasn't even afraid of the people from the medicine sect, so he must have some shocking trump card. However, this didn't mean that he was afraid of Ling Xiao. After all, there were so many people around him that even a heavenly sovereign would have to give way. Thus, he decided to give Ling Xiao some face. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind using all his strength to kill Ling Xiao here and now. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Ling Xiao, you'd better make Yi Yunfeng hand over the Emperor elixir. Gu Jiaojiao persuaded Ling Xiao from behind. Although she was aware of Ling Xiao's strength, she did not think that Ling Xiao could really fight against dozens of people alone. Moreover, these dozens of people were all high-level Earth Sovereign Realm experts, and each of them had their own trump cards. This combat strength was quite terrifying. Jiao Jiao is right. Brother Ling, you should think about it carefully. Since we're all from the same place, hand over the Emperor elixir. Tuoba Yuan smiled faintly. He felt that Ling Xiao would definitely compromise. His advantage was obvious. Unless Ling Xiao was really stupid, he wouldn't compromise. Ling Xiao laughed coldly. You don't have to care about our past relationship. I'm not that familiar with you. If you stole the Emperor elixir, so be it. It's no big deal. If you want to fight, then hurry up. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. Alright? All of you have to come at me together. Otherwise, it'll be boring. The expressions of Tuoba Yuan and the people behind him changed. They didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so insensible. Leader, let me Tai Tu go and kill this arrogant brat. A bald, brawny man stepped out from behind Tuoba Yuan and said. His voice was extremely loud and clear. It was as if he wanted to gain the upper hand by a show of strength. Tuoba Yuan hesitated for a moment. He nodded at the brawny man who called himself Tai Tu and said, be careful. His physical body is very harmful. Leader, don't worry. No matter how powerful you are, I have a way to deal with him. Tai Tu responded and walked towards Ling Xiao. At the same time, he summoned his spirit beast. His spirit beast was a 5th-tier advanced earth drilling mouse. It was adept at drilling through the ground and mountains, Its sharp mouth was comparable to a low-tier spirit weapon. It could bite through anything no matter how hard it was. Tai Tu relied on the earth-drilling mouse's sharp mouth to dare to challenge Ling Xiao. He didn't believe that Ling Xiao's physical body could withstand the earth-drilling mouse's bite. "Brat, come over. Your delicate body won't be able to take a hit from this Lord Tai." Tai Tu rubbed his bald head and said viciously. Tai Tu was born in the army and had killed countless people. His famous iron head technique was even rarer. A bald head and a dead mouse. Disgusting to look at. "This young master will send you on your way first. You have company, right?" Ling Xiao said with extreme disdain and took the initiative to attack. Ling Xiao rarely took the initiative in a fight. This time, he chose to take the initiative. It was all because this ugly bald head was an eyesore, and that disgusting mouse made him feel even more displeased. 6 Clones Technique. 6 Ling Xiao split into 2 directions and attacked the man and the mouse. Tai Tu was momentarily dazed. Why did he see so many Ling Xiaos? However, he couldn't care so much. He lowered his bald head slightly, and an earthy yellow horn formed on his bald head. He charged at one of the Ling Xiaos. "Tai Tu? Then I'll make him headless." Ling Xiao shouted, and the 3 of them attacked Tai Tu's head at the same time. Bang bang. Tai Tu's strength was far inferior to Ling Xiao's. The bald head was hit by 6 fists several times, and his whole body was sent flying. On the other side, the earth-drilling mouse was also facing the fate of being punched by 3 Ling Xiaos at the same time. It had already developed intelligence, but it couldn't tell which one was the real Ling Xiao. After all, it could sense that the 6 figures all carried the same person's aura. A man and a mouse were immediately beaten back in the face of a shield. The 6 of Ling Xiao's figures merged into one, and he returned to the appearance of a single person. It was as if he had really split into 6. As Ling Xiao's strength increased, the infinite cloning technique became more realistic, making it harder for people to distinguish between the real and the fake. Although only one of the 6 figures was his real body, the other 5 had the aura of his clones, and their attacks were not weaker than any peak earthly sovereign realm expert. Earth-drilling mouse, come on. Bite him. Tai Tu's head was hurting from Ling Xiao's attacks. Only now did he realize that Ling Xiao's strength was far beyond his expectations. Therefore, he could only let the earth-drilling mouse pester Ling Xiao while he waited for an opportunity to make a move. Unfortunately, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt a pain in his head. Bang bang. A few muffled groans rang out, and a large head exploded just like that. The earth-drilling mouse was not much better off. Its body continued to self-destruct, and it only stopped after a long while. Its body, which was several meters long, had actually turned into a pile of mud, lying motionless on the ground. Looking at the large pool of blood flowing out of its body, it was needless to say that it was already dead. Tuoba Yuan, if you only want this kind of trash to die, then all of you should come at me together. This young master doesn't have time to waste with you. Ling Xiao curled his finger at Tuoba Yuan in disdain. To be honest, he wanted to taste the power of Tuoba Yuan's lightning attribute. He could sense that Tuoba Yuan's hidden strength was not any weaker than the leaders of the 18 major forces. In fact, Tuoba Yuan even had a certain chance of winning in a life-and-death battle. After all, the lightning attribute was known as the strongest attack attribute, and it was not just for show. Brother Tuoba, let's attack together. I don't believe that he can deal with so many of us by himself. Gu Mingzhu advised from the side. Tuoba Yuan waved his hand lightly and said, "No, let me finish him off in this battle." Then he stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly, "Ling Xiao, I didn't want to be your enemy, but you are too arrogant. Today I will let you see my true strength. I'd like to see if the thunder element is truly as invincible as the rumors say." Ling Xiao said, unruffled and unruffled. "Don't worry, I will let you see it now." Tuoba Yuan responded. He pulled the cloak on his shoulder and threw it into Gu Mingzhu's hands, revealing his robust body. Those bulging muscles were filled with unlimited explosive power. Tuoba Yuan roared into the sky, and the aura around his body instantly surged. The powerful aura caused the people around him to retreat far away. Rumble. A A sudden clap of thunder rang out. The sky actually turned jet black at this moment, and bolts of lightning interweaved in the sky. At this moment, Tuoba Yuan's body was surrounded by the power of lightning. He looked like a lightning emperor, giving off a mighty and extraordinary aura. He can actually cause a phenomenon? Ling Xiao murmured in astonishment. Chapter 642. According to some ancient records, a warrior with a certain tenbin talent or a profound skill could cause a natural phenomenon during battle, borrowing the power of heaven and earth for one's own use. Their battle prowess was unparalleled among those of the same level. It was clear that Tuoba Yuan was one of those tenbin talents. 2 ferocious battle runes appeared on his forehead, and his entire body grew much taller than before. His explosive muscles constantly pulsed, and his tiger eyes flickered with a purple light. The purple halberd in his hand also emitted purple lightning, making him look extremely extraordinary. Within a radius of several dozen meters around Tuoba Yuan, lightning continuously fell from the sky. The power of this lightning was not inferior to the power of normal thunder. Just this aura alone was enough to show that Tuoba Yuan's power was much stronger than that of ordinary low-level Empyreans. Is this the leader's true strength? So terrifying. I thought that what I saw before was his strongest power, but it turns out that he's been hiding his true strength. Fortunately, I didn't choose to resist, or else I would have been killed by the leader back then. That Ling Xiao is unlucky. The leader wanted to let them live, but he didn't know what was good for him. There's going to be a good show to watch. That Ling Xiao does have some skills. This battle will definitely be a battle between dragons. To be honest, Ling Xiao had originally overestimated Tuoba Yuan's strength, but now that he saw Tuoba Yuan's aura, it was clear that he had still underestimated Tuoba Yuan. However, Ling Xiao's strength had just greatly improved, and he was lacking a powerful opponent to temper himself against. Now was the perfect time. It's too late for you to regret it now. The 3 of you die. Tuoba Yuan said with killing intent. Following this, he lightly pointed the purple halberd in his hand at Ling Xiao, and a purple lightning snake quickly shot towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao lightly shouted, "Get away from me!" Then he lightly tapped the ground with 1 foot. Rumble! The place behind Ling Xiao was blasted into a crater that was dozens of meters wide. Tuoba Yuan's simple attack had already reached the power of a low-level heavenly venerate. It was no wonder that he was so fearless. Gu Jiaojiao supported Yi Yunfeng and retreated hundreds of meters away. Gu Mingzhu brought some people to stop Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yunfeng. "Jiaojiao, you guys should stay here and wait for Brother Tuoba's punishment," said Gu Mingzhu indifferently. Gu Jiaojiao gritted her teeth and said, "Big Sister Mingzhu, I'm just your ally. Now that I've left the team, Tuoba Yuan has no right to control me. Withdrawing from the alliance midway, that's a betrayal. Kill Yi Yunfeng. Perhaps I can ask Brother Tuoba to let you off." Gu Mingzhu had long been in love with Tuoba Yuan, so she naturally stood on his side. "Hee, do you think I would do that?" Gu Jiaojiao smiled faintly. "Then we'll wait for Brother Tuoba to kill Ling Xiao. Let him deal with you then." Gu Mingzhu did not make a move. Instead, she gestured for people to lock onto Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yunfeng's subordinates. On the other side, the battle between Tuoba Yuan and Ling Xiao had already begun. Tuoba Yuan launched a ferocious attack on Ling Xiao from the very beginning. Bolts of lightning continuously shot out from the purple battle halberd. The frightening attack caused the surroundings to tremble slightly, and the sound of the explosions caused people's eardrums to ache. Ling Xiao relied on his advantage in speed to constantly dodge. It seemed like he actually did not dare to fight Tuoba Yuan head-on. Tuoba Yuan swallowed 2 pills that increased his speed and laughed proudly. "Isn't your physical body very powerful? If you have the ability, then don't dodge. Watch me blast you to death." "Hee, don't worry. I just want to see how strong you are. Since you want to see my strength, I'll fulfill your wish." Ling Xiao smiled faintly, and his aura finally increased. Golden light began to flicker around his body, and an 8-clawed golden dragon roared in the sky. Ling Xiao was now a peak earthly sovereign. Even if he did not increase his dragon-shaped battle force, his strength was already comparable to a low-level heavenly venerate. It was enough to fight Tuoba Yuan. If he used his full strength, Tuoba Yuan would not be able to withstand even a single move from him, no matter how powerful he was. Yi Futian did not want this battle to end so quickly. He wanted to see how strong Tuoba Yuan really was. Faced with Tuoba Yuan's lightning again, Ling Xiao did not dodge this time. His dragon-shaped fist met the lightning head-on. This idiot actually dares to take my lightning head-on. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Tuoba Yuan thought to himself. He was very confident in his own strength. Even a low-level heavenly venerate would not dare to easily take this move from him. Before participating in the Imperial ranking tournament, Tuoba Yuan's strength was already enough to break through to the heavenly venerate level. However, he deliberately did not search for his own Dao. Instead, he forcibly stopped his strength at the peak earthly sovereign level. This was all so that he could seize the title of Imperial Exterminator, or even the First Arch. Tuoba Yuan felt that although Ling Xiao was powerful, he was still far from being able to fight at full strength. He felt that Ling Xiao would definitely not be able to take this move from him. Rumble. That lightning did not injure Ling Xiao. Instead, it was deflected by Ling Xiao's punch. His strength is indeed not weak. If I did not strengthen the ancient sovereign divine technique, I would not be able to take it, Ling Xiao thought to himself. Your weak lightning power is only SOSO. Ling Xiao laughed coldly. His entire body pounced at Tuoba Yuan, and his 12 doppelgangers surrounded Tuoba Yuan from all directions. Ling Xiao's doppelgangers were now twice as many as before. It was a dazzling sight. The Blue Sun sect's doppelganger technique? It looks like those two idiots, Wen Huang and Bai Menxing, have already been killed by him. Tuoba Yuan did not seem to care at all about the 12 Ling Xiao's attacks. A golden shield appeared in his hand, and layers of golden light enveloped Tuoba Yuan. Although Tuoba Yuan was not of the metal element and could not unleash the true defensive power of this shield, a half-step sage artifact's defensive capabilities were still quite shocking even without activating spiritual power. Bang bang. As expected, the power of Ling Xiao's 12 doppelgangers slammed into the golden shield's defensive light barrier. A series of violent sounds rang out, but the power of his punch was indeed unable to break through the defensive light barrier. Hee. Even if you have double the number of doppelgangers, you still won't be able to break through this defense. Tuoba Yuan laughed proudly. The purple halberd in his hand trembled slightly, and several streaks of lightning shot towards Ling Xiao's real body like snakes. Ling Xiao blocked the lightning with one hand. Your lightning is useless against me. Is that so? I was just warming up just now. Now, I'll let you have a taste of what it feels like to be electrocuted. Tuoba Yuan laughed and leaped into the air. He raised the purple halberd high up, and a streak of lightning pierced towards the dark clouds in the sky. Rumble. A lightning bolt as thick as a water bucket was drawn down by Tuoba Yuan. The purple halberd seemed to be in line with the heavens, and from afar, it looked like a strange sight. If it was a normal person who tried to draw in the power of heaven and earth like this, they would have long been charred by the lightning. However, Tuoba Yuan was of the lightning element, and the mystic technique he cultivated required the power of lightning to be cultivated. Not only did this power not harm him, but it instead filled him with even more power. The people below were all shocked when they saw this scene, and even Ling Xiao revealed a slightly moved expression. He can actually borrow the power of heaven and earth. This Tuoba Yuan's Tenbin cultivation is not weak. It's a pity that he's up against me. Ling Xiao thought to himself. He had already secretly raised his power bit by bit, and was prepared to receive Tuoba Yuan's lightning attack. Thunder rumble and lightning flash. Tuoba Yuan shouted loudly, and the purple halberd in his hand quickly stabbed towards Ling Xiao. Rumbling sounds of thunder and lightning rang out, and the power of lightning smashed towards Ling Xiao at high speed. Although Ling Xiao's speed was untraceable, the speed of the lightning attack was not any slower than his. Ling Xiao raised the ancient sovereign mystic technique to 70% defense. Dragon fists roared out one after another, and the golden fists continuously blasted away the lightning. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger faintly ached, but this pain only made Ling Xiao's fighting spirit soar even higher. Good. With the power of your lightning, even ordinary low-level heavenly venerables are no match for you. However, it's still far from enough to deal with me. Ling Xiao replied, and the ancient sovereign mystic technique's defense increased by another 10%. With 80% of the ancient sovereign mystic technique's defense, layers of multicolored dragon scales appeared on Ling Xiao's body. The golden dragon image above his head became more and more solid, and the dragon's might was fully displayed in front of everyone. Tuoba Yuan's lightning attacks seemed to have become insignificant, and they were sent flying by Ling Xiao's punches to the side. The people who followed Tuoba Yuan were all overwhelmed with shock. The leader is already very powerful, but this Ling Xiao is actually so abnormal as well. The two of them are probably much stronger than those pretentious fangirls from those big powers. That's right. I'm afraid that ordinary low-level heavenly venerables would only be defeated if they fought against them. I think they'll be able to directly advance to heavenly venerables after they leave this time. How enviable! It's a pity that Ling Xiao is destined to fall here. Who told him to be so arrogant? Gu Jiaojiao looked at the two people in battle and muttered, "These two people are really terrifying. I'm afraid that even Big Brother might not have their fighting strength." Gu Jiaojiao had always admired her big brother. Her big brother was even one of the top 100 war emperors, and he had already stepped into the honorable realm. She had originally thought that her big brother was already very amazing, but she never thought that Tuoba Yuan and Ling Xiao's strength would be so abnormal. It seemed that they were not weaker than her big brother's current strength. They were only at the Earth Emperor realm, and once they broke through to the Sky Sovereign realm, they would definitely be even more terrifying. Yunfeng said with a weak tone, Boss hasn't used his full strength yet. If Boss were to get serious, Tuoba Yuan would have died long ago." Indeed, Ling Xiao had many trump cards. As long as he fought with all his might, Tuoba Yuan would definitely not be able to withstand a single blow from Ling Xiao. Gu Jiaojiao looked at Yi Yunfeng from the side and raised her beautiful eyes. "Why don't you have any strength left? Even if it's all used up, it shouldn't be like this, right?" Yi Yunfeng smiled bitterly and said, "I already used a secret technique just now, and now it's after the secret technique." Before he could finish speaking, he fainted. Chapter 643. The more Tuoba Yuan and Ling Xiao fought, the more intense the battle became. They fought from the ground to the sky, and from the sky to the ground again. The intense purple lightning and golden light that surged out forced the surrounding people to retreat far away. "Tuoba Yuan, are you out of tricks? This bit of lightning isn't even enough to tickle me." After blocking Tuoba Yuan's lightning for a while, Ling Xiao felt that it was pointless. He didn't even move his hands, allowing the lightning to strike his body. The surrounding people were all shocked. They once again witnessed Ling Xiao's powerful physical body. It was much more terrifying than they had imagined. Tuoba Yuan's face was completely black. His lightning attacks were the strongest among those of the same cultivation level. Even if he fought someone of a higher cultivation level, he had a high chance of winning. However, against this guy with such a monstrous physical body, he felt like he had nowhere to exert his strength. Since that's the case, I'll let you have a taste of the true heavenly might of lightning. Tuoba Yuan didn't want to continue playing like this. He wanted to finish Ling Xiao in one move. If this move couldn't do anything to Ling Xiao, then he could only order the others to surround and attack Ling Xiao. Tuoba Yuan once again received the power of heavenly might. However, the lightning that gathered this time was even more terrifying than before. Terrifying lightning flashed continuously in the pitch-black sky. These lightning bolts were even thicker than before, and their power was even more terrifying and explosive. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sound of thunder and lightning was like the sound of the end of the world, causing people's hearts to palpitate. Over 10 lightning bolts intersected and all fell towards Tuoba Yuan. The power of these lightning bolts was enough to smash several mountains into dust, but Tuoba Yuan actually received them head-on. His entire body seemed to have turned into a god of lightning. Every muscle on his body became the color of purple lightning, and his purple hair also fluttered. The purple halberd in his hand flowed with powerful lightning power, and he was prepared to attack in the next moment. Tuoba Yuan's face revealed a pained expression. Clearly, it was very difficult for him to concentrate the power of lightning on his body. Now that he had finished storing up his energy, Tuoba Yuan slowly pointed the purple battle halberd in Ling Xiao's direction. Ling Xiao, you should be proud of being able to force me to this extent. Tuoba Yuan was currently using a forbidden technique. After using this technique, he would enter a period of weakness, but in order to defeat Ling Xiao, he would not hesitate. World Annihilation Thunder Sun. Tuoba Yuan gently exhaled on his purple battle halberd, and a powerful thunder force instantly burst forth. The terrifying lightning power was like a purple sun that enveloped everything within a radius of tens of meters. The round purple sun pressed towards Ling Xiao at an unparalleled speed, and the surrounding air crackled from the purple lightning. This thunder sun seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth, causing everyone to retreat continuously. Their eyes were filled with indescribable shock. Tuoba Yuan's attack had already far exceeded the scope of their imagination. Even a mid-level heavenly venerate's all-out attack could not compare to this. Only then did they realize that the gap between them and Tuoba Yuan was too great. In their hearts, they all felt that Ling Xiao would definitely be blasted to smithereens. Ling Xiao also realized how terrifying this technique was. Perhaps even a mid-level heavenly venerate would not be able to withstand it. Although it would not be a problem for him to block it with his full strength, he knew that this was Tuoba Yuan's final trump card, so there was no need for him to continue holding back. Let's stop here. Ling Xiao continued to retreat. At the same time, the spiritual power in his body rapidly surged, and a five-colored radiance replaced the original golden radiance. He raised a finger, and all the power gathered on his finger. The thin spiritual qi in the surroundings was also attracted over. Struggle on your deathbed. Tuoba Yuan shouted. He was very confident in this technique. Back then, he had used this technique to kill and injure two low-level heavenly venerates at the same time. He did not believe that Ling Xiao could withstand this technique. When Lei Yang arrived in front of Ling Xiao pointed his finger at it and shouted, "Jade-breaking golden finger, break for me." Swish. Terrifying energy also burst forth from his finger, and the five-colored finger radiance collided with the thunder sun like a hot knife through butter. Rumble, rumble. In mid-air, the huge thunder sun seemed to cover the sky and instantly engulfed the five-colored finger radiance. Just when everyone thought that the five-colored finger radiance would be completely crushed by the thunder sun exploded prematurely. At the same time, a five-colored ray of light shot through the center of the electric field and shot toward Tuoba Yuan. "What? You actually broke through my thunder sun?" Tuoba Yuan exclaimed. Without thinking, he immediately placed the golden shield in front of his chest to block the five-colored finger radiance. Bang! The five-colored finger radiance landed on the layers of defensive light on the golden shield, and a loud collision sound was heard. Tuoba Yuan had just used a forbidden technique. Although he had taken an elixir, his body was much weaker than before. Now that he had the golden shield to block it, his body was still sent flying by the powerful finger radiance. Who knew that the few people who had just left wouldn't even fly 100 meters before they fell from the sky without any warning? They actually died just like that. If anyone dares to escape again, I'll kill them. Ling Xiao's voice sounded as if it came from the depths of hell, causing everyone who heard it to shiver involuntarily. When those people felt the dense killing intent that Ling Xiao was emitting, not a single one of them dared to escape by themselves. A slightly bolder peak Earth Emperor came in front of Ling Xiao and said respectfully, Lord Ling Xiao, how about we follow you together? This way, it'll be much faster than you going to search for the Emperor pills alone." Ling Xiao waved his hand and said bluntly, "Cut the crap with your lowly strength, what can you do for me? Quickly hand over the Emperor pills and scram." That earthly Emperor's face flushed red, his face burning with discomfort. He wanted to refute, but he couldn't say a single word. With Ling Zhao's strength, they were clearly not on the same level as Ling Xiao. In the end, they could only hand over the emperor pills with drooping faces, as if their parents had died. It was also at this time that Gu Mingzhu gave up on attacking Gu Jiaojiao and flew towards Tuoba Yuan, who was not far away and had no more strength left. Forget it, I'll let you guys go. No matter what, we're allies. Gu Jiaojiao hesitated for a moment, but did not chase after them. She was still quite kind-hearted. Thinking that they had interacted for a while, she actually did not go forward to stop them. However, Ling Zhao's mental power had covered a radius of a few thousand meters. Of course, he could sense that Gu Mingzhu was going to take Tuoba Yuan away. Soft-hearted. Ling Xiao sighed in his heart. After keeping all the emperor pills that the earthly emperor had handed over, he coldly snorted and said, "All of you, scram." Immediately after, Ling Zhao's figure flashed and appeared in front of Gu Mingzhu, who was trying to escape. "I haven't said that I'll let him go yet. Are you going to take him away just like that?" Ling Xiao said indifferently. If it wasn't for the fact that Gu Mingzhu was a woman, he wouldn't have bothered to waste his breath and would have killed the two of them immediately. He's already injured to this extent. What else do you want? Gu Mingzhu glared at Ling Xiao. "I don't want to kill a woman. Hand over the emperor pills. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this place." Ling Xiao said faintly. Gu Mingzhu hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth and handed over her emperor pills. Compared to her life, these emperor pills were nothing. "You really don't know what's good for you, woman," Ling Xiao said with a frown. Gu Mingzhu gently bit down on her pearly white teeth again before stuffing a pill into Tuoba Yuan's mouth to wake him up. "Brother Tuoba, give him the emperor pills," Gu Mingzhu said softly to Tuoba Yuan. Tuoba Yuan found it difficult to even speak. However, he also understood the current situation. He was already thankful that Ling Xiao did not kill him and take the emperor pills. He immediately used his will to hand over the emperor pills. However, the moment he handed over the emperor pills, his purple eyes actually shot out 2 rays of lightning towards Ling Xiao's eyes. Chapter 644. This sudden eye attack was simply impossible to defend against. Even Ling Xiao himself did not expect Tuoba Yuan to have such a move. Gu Mingzhu, who was at the side, was also shocked by Tuoba Yuan's attack. As the distance was too short, Ling Xiao did not have the time to react. He could only immediately close his eyes and concentrate his spiritual energy on his eyes to reduce the power of the attack. Bang bang! Ling Xiao was forced back a few steps by the power of the 2 lightning bolts, and he could not help but let out a muffled groan. Although Ling Xiao's ancient sovereign divine technique was powerful, his eyes were indeed one of his body's weaknesses. After all, his eyes were too fragile. Now that he was temporarily defending, he did not even use 30% of his defensive power, so it was impossible for him not to be injured. Tuoba Yuan said with a vicious expression, "Mingzhu, quickly kill him." Gu Mingzhu was still in shock, and when she heard Tuoba Yuan's cry, she seemed to be at a loss. "Brother Tuoba, I'll bring you away." Although Gu Mingzhu saw that Ling Xiao was injured, she did not have the confidence to kill Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao's defense was obvious to all. As soon as she finished speaking, she grabbed Tuoba Yuan and flew far away. "Stop!" Gu Jiaojiao was also shocked by this sudden turn of events, and she immediately chased after them from afar. Unfortunately, the distance between them was not short, and it was difficult to catch up immediately. "I originally wanted to let you two live, but since you two are courting death, don't blame me," Ling Xiao said faintly as he covered his eyes with one hand, and his body could not conceal the dense killing intent. Gu Mingzhu carried Tuoba Yuan and fled at top speed, but how could they be faster than Ling Xiao's formless mental power? Ling Xiao only needed a thought, and his mental power rushed out of his sea of consciousness like a tidal wave. The mental power split into 2 and evolved into the mystic skill that Ling Xiao used, and bombarded the 2 sea of consciousness. Gu Mingzhu and Tuoba Yuan did not escape more than a few hundred meters before they felt a pain in their heads. Their sea of consciousness was being attacked by countless swords. Two blood-curdling screams rang out as the two of them fell heavily from the sky. Gu Jiaojiao looked at the two people who suddenly fell down, her eyes filled with disbelief. Could it be a psychic attack? Gu Jiaojiao thought in shock. As an alchemist, she was quite sensitive to spiritual energy. When she saw Gu Mingzhu and Tuoba Yuan die just like that, she could not help but suspect that Ling Xiao had used spiritual energy to kill them. Otherwise, why would they fall to their deaths for no reason before she even saw Ling Xiao make a move? Did Ling Xiao know any sorcery? This was obviously impossible. The only explanation was that she had sensed a slight fluctuation of spiritual power just now. If one wanted to use their mental power to kill others invisibly, one would need an extremely vast amount of mental power to do so. However, how much mental strength would it take to kill a peak earthly sovereign realm expert in an instant using mental strength? Perhaps only an alchemist who had reached the peak of the 7th rank would have such a possibility. Looking at Ling Xiao's current age, could he be a peak tier 7 alchemist? Gu Jiaojiao clearly felt that this conjecture was ridiculous. All of the peak tier 7 alchemists were influential figures from all over the world. How could they have reached this level at such a young age? Even in her family, only her great-grandfather had reached this realm. Could he be a member of the Soul Clan? Gu Jiaojiao thought to herself. After pausing for a moment, she thought, although the Soul Clan cultivates spiritual energy, their bodies are weak and their battle prowess is not that strong. Furthermore, the Soul Clan has disappeared for many years. No, the Soul Clan's ancestral home is in the southern wasteland, which is quite close to the northwest. Ling Xiao might have some secrets that no one knows about. Gu Jiaojiao became more and more curious about Ling Xiao, but she also knew that in this situation, she would not hesitate to ask Ling Xiao about it. After all, everyone had their own secrets and privacy. She quickly came to Ling Xiao's side and asked in a tender voice, "Ling Xiao, are you all right?" Just now, she had seen the two purple lights that Tuoba Yuan had suddenly shot out. If it was her, she would have definitely been blinded. It was just that she did not know how badly Ling Xiao was injured. Ling Xiao covered his eyes and turned his head away. "Miss Gu, please take care of Yunfeng first. I'll be fine soon. I've already told you to call me Jiao Jiao." "Miss Gu, it sounds like you're treating me like an outsider. Here are some medicinal pills to clear your eyes." "Fitu," Gu Jiaojiao said with a slightly annoyed expression. She then took out 2 medicinal pills and stuffed them into Ling Xiao's hands. Ling Xiao wanted to refuse, but Gu Jiaojiao had already flown back to Yi Yunfeng's side. Ling Xiao held the pill in his hand and did not consume it. Instead, he activated the ancient emperor's divine kung fu and began to heal his eyes. Fortunately, he had closed his eyes long ago, and Tuoba Yuan was already severely injured, so he could not unleash 30 to 40% of his strength. Otherwise, his eyes would have been crippled. Even so, Ling Xiao still felt a great deal of pain. After a while, Ling Xiao was finally able to slowly open his eyes. 2 black eyes could be seen on his face. Ling Xiao raised his hand and condensed the ice attribute into an ice mirror. He looked at his own face. "Damn, this young master's eyes are swollen like this. I'm going to be disfigured." He looked at Yunfeng and muttered, "Could it be that some remnant soul is causing trouble? If that's the case, then Yunfeng is in danger." "Ling Xiao, what are you talking about?" Gu Jiaojiao couldn't quite hear what he said. "Jiao Jiao, protect us. I might know what's going on with Yunfeng," Ling Xiao said with a serious expression. Gu Jiaojiao nodded and immediately flew into the air to observe her surroundings. Ling Xiao sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. He quickly focused his mind and calmed down. Shortly after, wisps of soul power flowed out from his sea of consciousness and entered Yunfeng's sea of consciousness. Gu Jiaojiao saw this scene clearly, and her expression became incomparably shocked. This can't be real, right?" Gu Jiaojiao asked in her heart. Only an emperor-ranked expert or above could have the soul leave their body, but Ling Xiao was actually able to do it. How could Gu Jiaojiao not be shocked? In fact, Ling Xiao was forced to do this. He was sure that the remnant soul was devouring Yi Yunfeng's soul. If it succeeded, then Yi Yunfeng would no longer be Yi Yunfeng. As the boss, Ling Xiao had always been the most loyal. He couldn't just watch Yi Yunfeng fall into such a situation. Therefore, he planned to enter Yi Yunfeng's sea of consciousness in his soul form to help him. Ling Xiao's mental strength was already quite terrifying, and soul power and mental strength were inseparable. The stronger the mental strength, the stronger the soul power. Ling Xiao's mental strength had already reached the peak of an 8th-rank alchemist. Even emperor-ranked experts weren't as terrifying as his. Therefore, he could just barely transfer his soul into Yi Yunfeng's sea of consciousness. However, it was very dangerous. If his body was injured, then he would be finished. However, Yi Yunfeng's current state was very dangerous, so Ling Xiao couldn't afford to waste too much time. When Ling Xiao entered Yi Yunfeng's sea of consciousness, he actually saw that Yi Yunfeng's soul was being entangled by another fellow. It looked like the most dangerous moment was approaching. Damn, you dare to devour my little brother? You must be tired of living. Ling Xiao cried out in alarm and attacked the fellow that was trying to devour Yi Yunfeng. The remnant soul hadn't expected that someone would be able to enter this place. It was already very weak. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Yunfeng's condition was worse than its own, it definitely wouldn't have chosen to possess Yi Yunfeng at this time. Ling Xiao's soul power was very strong. The remnant soul immediately dissipated after being attacked by Ling Xiao. Why are you ruining my plans? The remnant soul cried out in alarm. Ruining your plans? This young master wants your soul to scatter. Ling Xiao replied, intercepting the remnant soul and attacking it again. In a battle of soul power, only the strength of the soul mattered. Ling Xiao clearly had the upper hand. When the remnant soul was about to dissipate, Ling Xiao called out to the weakened Yunfeng, Yunfeng, come over and devour it. Boss. Yi Yunfeng reformed his state and pounced towards the remnant soul that was about to dissipate. Chapter 645. Ling Xiao retreated from Yi Yunfeng's knowledge sea, his face extremely pale. An out-of-body experience is really exhausting. Ling Xiao sighed heavily. He had only been out of his body for a short while, but he already felt exhausted. This was much more terrifying than the consumption of spiritual power and spiritual power. Gu Jiaojiao descended from the sky, her beautiful eyes staring unblinkingly at Ling Xiao, as if she couldn't wait to strip Ling Xiao naked and see through him. Ling Xiao made a shy gesture. Don't look at me like that, I'll be shy. Gu Jiaojiao couldn't help but cover her small mouth and giggle. Looking at Ling Xiao's expression, she couldn't believe it was the same person who had killed without mercy. Gu Jiaojiao blinked. Did your soul leave your body just now? She paused for a moment, then added, don't deny it. I'm a 4th-grade alchemist, and I can feel your soul power fluctuations. Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment, then changed the topic. I didn't expect a delicate beauty like you to be a 4th-grade alchemist. My apologies. Previously, during the minor competition, Ling Xiao had seen Gu Jiaojiao in action. She was very skilled at controlling fire, so he felt that Gu Jiaojiao might be an alchemist. Now that she had admitted it, he was a little surprised. Now you know how amazing I am. Gu Jiaojiao was indeed led to another topic by Ling Xiao. Hearing Ling Xiao praise her as a beauty made her feel very comfortable. Of course you are, and you're suitable to be my sister-in-law, Ling Xiao replied with a smile. Gu Jiaojiao's face turned red and she said, who wants to be your sister-in-law? He's not good enough for me in his current state. At this time, Yi Yunfeng had already regained consciousness, and he felt very uncomfortable when he heard these words. Do I have to live under the light of boss for the rest of my life? Yi Yunfeng asked in his mind. Ling Xiao sensed that Yi Yunfeng should have recovered, and immediately said, Jiao, don't underestimate the potential of my brother. He is only in his early 30s now, and he will definitely break through to the heavenly venerable stage within 2 or 3 years after leaving this place. If you don't like such a man, I'm afraid it's your loss. Yi Yunfeng was touched to hear Ling Xiao praise him so highly. Let's not talk about this anymore. What do you plan to do next? Gu Jiaojiao didn't want to dwell on this topic. She couldn't hide the disappointment in her heart. Everything can wait until Yunfeng recovers. Ling Xiao nodded before handing Gu Mingzhu's space ring to Gu Jiaojiao and taking out 100 emperor pills. This is your reward for saving Yunfeng. Gu Jiaojiao couldn't hide her excitement as she unceremoniously put away the space ring and the 100 emperor pills. She wasn't after the items in Gu Mingzhu's spatial ring. What she really wanted were the 100 monarch pills. With them, it wouldn't be a problem for her to enter the top 100 combat emperors. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. In these 3 days, Ling Xiao, Gu Jiaojiao, and Yi Yunfeng didn't leave this place. Yi Yunfeng's injuries had also recovered. Ling Xiao looked at Yi Yunfeng, who had become much more stable. He felt that Yi Yunfeng had finally gained something after nearly a year of tempering. However, what surprised Ling Xiao was that Yi Yunfeng's eyes had become much sharper, as if he had the aura of an expert without being angry. At the same time, when he looked at Gu Jiaojiao, he had also become more confident, as if he was slowly transforming. The more Ling Xiao looked, the more satisfied he was. He thought to himself, perhaps it has something to do with devouring that remnant soul. Ling Xiao knew that devouring another person's soul would allow one to obtain the majority of the soul's memories. Yi Yunfeng had obtained the remnant soul of a pseudo-emperor. This remnant soul was definitely a genuine emperor rank existence when it was alive. A person of this level would definitely have many good inherited memories. Yi Yunfeng's future path would be much smoother. Ling Xiao gave a portion of the emperor pills to Yi Yunfeng. He believed that these emperor pills would be enough for Yi Yunfeng to enter the top 100. As for the top 10, it might be a little difficult. After all, Ling Xiao also wanted to leave a large portion of the emperor pills for him to break through to the first sovereign rank. Let's go, we still have some time. Let's find more emperor pills. Ling Xiao said and immediately flew in a certain direction. Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yunfeng followed behind him. As the time to leave approached, Ling Xiao desperately searched for the resentful souls in various places, striving to obtain more emperor pills as soon as possible. Gu Jiaojiao finally saw the even more terrifying side of Ling Xiao. How could she have imagined that a single person could take away the emperor pills in the midst of resentful souls? How could she have imagined that a single person could kill and absorb the souls of those pseudo-emperors and even emperors? If this were to spread, no one would believe that this was something that a peak earthly emperor could do, right? Along the way, Gu Jiaojiao could not help but pester Yi Yunfeng out of curiosity. She asked about Ling Xiao's background and whether it was possible to attract Ling Xiao to her Gu clan. After many pleading questions, Yi Yunfeng finally could not help but reveal Ling Xiao's identity as a 6th-grade alchemist. This time, Gu Jiaojiao was completely shocked. Although there were many 6th-grade alchemists in the central region, this was the first time she had seen such a young one. When she had advanced to the 4th-grade alchemist, her family had praised her as a rare genius. Now, in front of this genius, the gap was simply too big. One must know that Ling Xiao was younger than her by more than 10 years. She could not help but sigh in her heart at how abnormal Ling Xiao was. Perhaps the spiritual martial hall or the medicine sect would be tempted if they saw him. During this period, the three of them also encountered some earthly emperors who came to rob the emperor pills. This was because towards the end, all the people who were still alive would more or less have a lot of emperor pills in their hands, and robbing was the fastest source of income. This was also the highlight of this competition. What was a combat emperor? What was a killer emperor? What was the #1 martial emperor? Only after going through a lot of killing could one obtain such an honorable title. Here, whoever's fist was harder would be the one in the right. They did not care whether you were from a great power or not. As long as they obtained the emperor pills, they would do it no matter what method they used. The fate of those earthly emperors who robbed Ling Xiao and the other two could be imagined. They could only be robbed instead. This also caused the number of emperor pills Ling Xiao and the others to increase rapidly. This made Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yun unable to close their mouths. The two of them entering the top 100 combat emperors was a matter of fact. Gu Jiaojiao couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Following Ling Xiao was undoubtedly much better than following Tuoba Yuan back then. After all, Tuoba Yuan's team had too many people, and the emperor pills that they obtained were divided among themselves, so they didn't get many. On the other hand, Ling Xiao almost always went to get the emperor pills by himself, and in the end, he even gave her a lot of shares. This made her feel that Ling Xiao was too generous. Unknowingly, there was less than a month left until they left. At this time, Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness was actually filled to the brim. In his sea of consciousness, other than the two strange pearls, the rest of the space was filled with pure and vast mental energy. With the current Ling Xiao's mental energy, he was probably comparable to an ordinary saint. In the future, when he reached a higher realm, there would be no problem for him to refine high-level pellets. He only needed to hone his experience. There are only 20 days left. I need to expand my sea of consciousness a little more. Ling Xiao was not satisfied with the current situation. This place had the natural advantage of absorbing remnant souls to increase his mental energy, and he didn't want to let go of any chance to increase his strength. As long as he replenished his mental energy, he would definitely be able to cultivate a high-level mental energy incantation after a period of quiet cultivation, and he would have more mental energy to squander. Ling Xiao brought Gu Jiaojiao and Yunfeng to a place where there were no vengeful spirits roaming. After giving them some instructions, he opened a cave and entered a short period of seclusion. After entering the cave, Ling Xiao directly entered the second level of the cauldron. The cauldron spirit, Dark Light, instantly appeared in front of Ling Xiao. "Greetings, Master." Ling Xiao raised his eyes and then said calmly, "I want to exchange for 10 high-grade 6th-grade thorn snake vines." "Sure, Master. Please take out 10 high-grade 6th-grade spirit herbs for exchange." Darklight nodded in agreement. Ling Xiao's face twitched, and after showing the 10 high-grade 6th-grade spirit herbs to Darklight, he planted them in the spiritual field. "All right, Master, you can go and get the thorn snake vines," Darklight replied. Ling Xiao was unhappy. "I really don't know if this cauldron belongs to me. Exchanging one for one just for a few spirit herbs? What a scam." After obtaining the thorn snake vines, Ling Xiao left the cauldron and then swallowed a thorn snake vine. The thorn snake vine was a spirit herb that could expand one's sea of knowledge. This type of spirit herb was extremely rare, and Ling Xiao had collected spirit herbs for many years, but he didn't have any in stock. Fortunately, there were some planted in the cauldron, or else he really wouldn't know where to find them. However, most spirit herbs that could expand one's sea of knowledge would have to endure extraordinary pain after consuming them, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to endure such torment. If Ling Xiao wasn't in a hurry to expand his sea of knowledge, he wouldn't have taken such a risk. After all, if he wasn't careful, the pain would cause great damage and impact to his sea of knowledge. When the medicinal properties of the thorn snake vine began to take effect, spirit snakes actually appeared in Ling Xiao's sea of knowledge. These spirit snakes bit towards the barrier around Ling Xiao's sea of knowledge. They were using this method to expand Ling Xiao's sea of knowledge. Meanwhile, Ling Xiao only felt that his head was being bitten by thousands of insects, and the pain caused him to break out in cold sweat. Even with his amazing willpower, he still bit his lips until they bled. But Ling Xiao seemed to have gone mad, and both his fists continuously bombarded the surrounding rock walls. Bang bang. He seemed to be using this method to vent the bursts of pain in his mind. Gu Jiaojiao and Yi Yunfeng, who were outside, heard Ling Xiao's screams, and they felt a chill in their hearts. They wanted to go in and see what was going on, but before Ling Xiao went in, he had instructed them not to go in no matter what they heard, so they stopped in their tracks. "Does Ling Xiao usually cultivate like this?" Gu Jiaojiao asked Yi Yunfeng with a puzzled expression. Yi Yunfeng shook his head and said, "No, boss isn't a masochist." Gu Jiaojiao confirmed that Yi Yunfeng's words were true, and her beautiful eyes looked towards the cave entrance not far away. She thought to herself, "He's so cruel to himself, no wonder he's so outstanding." You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.